Schedule announcements today as we head towards the Wednesday 8 p.m. reveal. No international games this year for the Bills. The entire slate was released this morning. So notes from that, the Vikings are going to spend back-to-back weeks in the British Isles, first in Dublin against the Steelers on September 28th, then in London against the Browns on October 5th. And we also have the Madrid game. Miami is going to take on Washington. That game will be on November 16th. And coverage of the NFL schedule release on WGR is presented by Window Nation, the perfect fit for your home and wallet. Bengals edge rusher Trey Hendrickson spoke today with the local media. He continues to push for a new deal, though he did say he will not be playing under this current deal and has said the process has become personal between his camp and the Bengals. One game tonight in the Stanley Cup playoffs, Game 4 of Stars-Jets. Dallas hosts tonight at 8. They lead the series 2-1. All signs are also pointing to them getting reinforcements tonight. This defenseman Miro Heiskanen is expected to play tonight after going through morning skate, though nothing official as of yet. Then 2 games in the NBA, 7 p.m. The Cavs host Indiana, but it's the Pacers who could advance to the Eastern Conference Finals tonight with a win. Then at 9:30, Game 5 of Nuggets Thunder in OKC. The series all tied up at 2 games apiece. And then in baseball, the Bisons home against the Woo Sox. That game will get going just after 6 and can be heard on our sister station, the Bet 1520. While in the majors, just after 7, Blue Jays host the Rays, and the Mets have the Pirates in town. Then at 9:40, the Yankees out west versus Seattle. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
As always, football is just sort of populating new terminology all the time. International games seems like there should be kilts. There should be like a series of events like the Olympics. Hurling, though, would be involved. You know hurling?
Mm-hmm. I'm familiar.
Rugby, international
with
games.
Hurling. I used to know, I think, what hurling was, but now I'm not entirely sure.
Don't ask me, but I know of it.
I know it takes
Hurling.
place at Highland Games.
Highland Games, international games. There should be a javelin flying through the air at these international games. We've got Spain, we've got Germany, we've got Brazil, we've got Ireland. We don't have the Bills, so your wish was granted.
Yeah, I like that. I feel like it's going well, even though we don't know anything.
No news is good news?
No news is good news. I mean, if they had been included in that, we'd know a game, but I wouldn't like it. I said yesterday that's the thing I'm rooting most against is them getting one of those games. So I'm relieved that isn't happening.
And that's why again?
The travel. I just don't think it's advantageous to having your best season. I don't know that it's been studied scientifically, but it stands to reason that flying to England to play football and then flying back and playing a game 6 days later or 7 days later is harder than if you fly to Miami.
Well, they do give you the option of the bye week.
That's right.
And how much farther is it than L.A.? We had this conversation yesterday, but there's no way to find out the distances between the places. So unfortunately, we're left to guess.
It's about the same flight, isn't it? Probably 5.
I would think.
Is it about 5 hours?
LA's 5.5.
I'm messed up by going to my first time going to Europe was direct from Toronto to Barcelona, and that was 9 hours.
9?
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like Spain is that much farther from England, but I guess probably about 4 hours. As it turns out.
It might be 2. Maybe it's not 4, but maybe it's 2. But you get that bye week. And you also, if you play in England, say, you also don't have to play your opponent in their stadium. Like this would not have been a home game for the Bills.
Right.
The Bills have not had an international home game since they went to Toronto every year. It's always, am I right about this? Like Jacksonville, or maybe I'm not. Was Jacksonville maybe it was, actually. Maybe one of the London games against Jacksonville were home games. Anyway, if this year they would have been a road team, Pittsburgh or Cleveland or the Jets were the possibilities. I guess the Dolphins too. But whoever they would have played of those teams, that would have counted as a road game, so you're not going to those cities.
Yeah.
And that's something.
I think it even messes with the bye. The last time the Bills did it, they didn't choose to do that. I think McDermott wanted to have the bye later in the season. That was relatively early, right? Week 5, I feel like that was maybe.
They played the Giants on Sunday night here the next week.
Right. So
great game.
I feel like if you choose to have the bye there, your bye is spent recovering from having been to England, which is not exactly the same as just having a week off in the middle of the season given a normal travel schedule. I don't know. I don't need to make a mountain out of it. It's very likely, I want to say today, that the Bills will play one of these games next year because it's been a few years now since they've done it. So their name will probably come up.
You got to think Saudi Arabia will be one of the
right, eventually,
sites next
year. Yeah. There was a guest on. I did not catch his name.
John McEntee
with Chris and Steve on One Bills Live on my way in, talking about the schedule stuff in Europe and a European division and a Super Bowl elsewhere. And he's like, yeah, I don't know, Australia maybe. I was like, what are we doing? Anyway, I like that they're not playing internationally, and I saw a few different places today, the travel schedules, miles flown, and the Bills are traveling the second least of any team in the league.
Yes.
Air miles. I think I like that too.
Sure.
I mean, if I'm going to be worried about going to England, I'm gonna feel good about only leaving the time zone one time. I think they go to Houston, right? And that's it.
That is it.
Outside of the Eastern time zone.
What is their best road game? Sal asked me on his show today if I have I don't know.
You were on Sal's show today?
I was.
That's nice.
Yeah. It was recorded, by the way, because it was right smack during ADP chasing, so we had to do it earlier.
Oh, I see.
Just so nobody wonders.
Yeah, all right. Because you're such a schedule freak, he wanted to have you on.
Yeah, we are
reciprocity.
schedule geeks.
Good. Yeah.
He asked me if I had a dark horse Bills night game, and I said Atlanta.
Yeah.
I think Atlanta's good.
Atlanta, like Thursday night.
Thursday or Monday.
I just feel that feels
Never
like
Sunday.
Let's get Atlanta on, and the Bills, and big market, and okay, yeah. Like that sort of adds up to me. I wouldn't be surprised to see that be a sneaky night game. Because, like, the prime Bills opponents that they're hosting aren't all going to be night games. You just can't look at the schedule and go, great team, great team, great team, great team. Okay, those are the night games. That's very unlikely that it will work that way. I guess it could, but I would be very surprised. So if you want to get to 5 night games, I think you got to look around for like an oddball, and Atlanta, I think, fits.
Atlanta's okay. You want 5? You think 5?
Sure.
Is that the limit?
I think I feel like
the Bills had 7.
Right, once they get added in, I think, right? The year where they went to Miami in the season finale.
Yes.
I think they ended up with 7.
I think at the time that had never happened before.
Right.
That's another weird one. Like if you go back 10 years, when I was in my Al Michaels is never walking through that door phase.
Yeah.
They had set a record 7 night games 2 years ago. That's 2 years ago. Best road game, maybe Falcons. Carolina's not that. Pittsburgh, Cleveland are okay. I would hope for the fans those are road trips. Mm-hmm. Like those are day games that you can go to because that'd be really fun.
Drivable, 3 hours. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Division games, and then what's left? Houston. That's it. AFC East, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Atlanta, Carolina, Houston. That's the road schedule.
Right.
And Houston, last year, this was me on the Diggs thing again. I'm back at maybe this is a bigger deal to me, Diggs, than to anybody else. But I like the idea of a Bills-Patriots game with Diggs on the field for New England on a Monday night. Even week 1, if we knew he was going to be ready for that game. That adds to it for me, like meaningfully. Mm-hmm. Last year, I felt the same way with the Texans, and the NFL put it at 1 o'clock. As it happens, it was the only game in a stretch of 5 Bills games that was not at night. So you can only put so many on at night.
Right.
But if you want 5, it's 2 or 3, I think it would be, of the big 4. There's a big 4.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Cincinnati. 2 or 3 of those, one seemingly obligatory division game.
Sure.
Foxborough.
And then this Falcon game, and you're home.
And then maybe the Falcons.
Yep.
Who I think are kind of interesting, even though you hate them. You would never admit it.
6 is the maximum night games. Okay. I don't know why I had 5. I feel like a few years ago maybe it was 5. Whatever. I had 5 in my head. Okay, so 6 is then let's push it to 6.
6.
Let's find 6. They are not going to find reasons not to put the Bills on in primetime. I would think they'll be eager. Everybody's going to want a taste of that. So ESPN will get a look at it. Of course, NBC and Sunday Night Football will get a look at it. This Peacock thing maybe will account for something. And then you've got the Thursday Prime series. So, if there's 4 right there without even doing anything. if everybody takes a turn, and they'll probably be on Sunday night more than one time because they're the Bills with the defending MVP on their roster.
Why can't Josh Allen just do the Today Show?
I don't know. I'm so sick of this.
I am sick of it.
I feel like
and after tomorrow night, I'm not going to care if he ever does the Today Show. It will mean nothing to me. I only care about it in the sense that it might be a clue.
Right.
On the schedule, once the schedule comes out, do it every day. I'll never see it or
he
care about it at all.
He can make brownies with Hoda. For all I care. I know she's not on that show.
She's not?
I don't think so.
She was.
She was? Oh, then maybe. Sorry, I had that in my head. I don't know. Okay, maybe she is still there. I don't know. I thought I picked someone from The View by mistake.
Hoda?
Yeah.
No, that's Today Show. Or I don't know anymore.
Yeah. I don't know anything.
As far as I know, Brian Gumbel is still hosting the Today Show, but I'm pretty sure that's stopped.
What aggravates me the most about the on off again thing with this Allen Today Show appearance is it's for the person who hates this subject. It's just like, okay, guys, it's enough already with the Josh Allen is going to be on the Today Show thing. It's not our fault. They said he was going to be, and then they changed their minds, and then they said it was going to be again, and then they changed their minds again. So anyway.
Is there a reason given?
I have no idea if there's been a reason given. But I did see enough detail from a few different Channel 2 employees that said like they were instructed to pull down any promotional social media for it because it's definitely off.
They have to do it? They just sort of do what they're told?
I suppose, yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe it is schedule related. Maybe they don't want him on.
Maybe the Bills aren't going to play any games.
I don't know. But that was a thing, and now it's not. The reveal today was Green Bay hosting Philadelphia in Week 10. That's today's Good Morning America.
Was that what that was? I missed it. I just know I've just heard a lot of reference to like thanks for all of the Eagles information.
Well, the one game I think that we've got today that's new other than these international games, which we already kind of knew about. There's no surprises on that list. Every one of those games had been reported already.
Yeah.
So no real news there. But Week 10, Philadelphia at Green Bay, I think Monday night, is the one that's different from that we didn't have yesterday.
That was the Good Morning America reveal. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And does that mean that, like, so here, this is reveal time, and the game they give you is Packers-Eagles in Week 10? Does that mean the league thinks the tush-push controversy is that big a deal? Like, is that why, as opposed to Week 1 or some doubleheader like in the past when they've promoted those instead, that they think the fact that the Packers tried to get the tush-push banned makes that like a big game now?
Well, I want to admire their hustle if that's any part of the reason, but I would myself didn't even think about it.
Then why would you pick a game in Week 10?
Dude. Yeah, I don't know.
The Eagles did have 3 games announced already.
Because the Eagles are the champs?
But it's already 3.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Even Green Bay had one already. I think that's I can't say probably, but maybe sort of a narrative that we're just not going to be able to avoid hearing about.
The tush push, yeah.
That the Packers, this game is bigger because the Packers tried to get that banned, and I don't know, I really don't care that much about that, but
yeah, I definitely don't care about it. The Bills were in that too. I mean, McDermott, they didn't it wasn't their presentation, right? It wasn't their idea. But McDermott has talked about, I think almost not correctly, because he keeps referencing injury. I guess it's more potential for injury because there hasn't been any injury really outside of the ordinary on the play. But McDermott's been pretty vocal about it too. So that's, they could have just as well announced Bills-Eagles if they were thinking about a tush-push. Green Bay outranks McDermott and the Bills on that, though. But still.
Well, it was their proposal.
Right, that's what I mean.
All McDermott ever said was, he referenced injuries and he kind of pulled back on that. But I don't know. I'm not so interested in those teams have a past. They played in the playoffs even last year.
Sure, they're both contending NFC teams. So
I'd rather have week 1 than week 10.
I'd rather have some dribs and drabs for the whole league rather than everything being the Eagles and the Bears or whatever. It just seems like it's a lot. There's a lot of repetitiveness in what is being revealed. And I don't know, maybe in the future the league should consider letting each team pick a day before, like Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, and have your own thing. It doesn't have to be on Good Morning America, but let your fans know, here, hey, look, here's one game. Just here, have this. Rather than just revealing random games throughout the league calendar, and in this case, having too many of them, for my taste, involve one or two teams.
Philadelphia has 4. A couple teams have 2, but even the Broncos. But Philadelphia has 4. I don't know. Are they so interesting themselves, the Eagles? I think, dare I say it, I think the Chiefs are sexier than the Eagles. Philadelphia won, and it's a big market, but I don't think they're that great of a draw. I think they're okay, but they're not Kansas City. They're not even maybe Buffalo or Baltimore to me. They're fine. They're fine, but
they're the champs, and it's a huge market. That's it. I think. I agree. I don't think that they're. The fact that they pummeled the Chiefs the way they did, to me, only lasts so long and gets you so far. So I don't think they're. That's part of why I'm sort of bristling at 4 of these games that have been revealed already being their games. It's a bit much. Sure, they're the champs. I don't feel like every year whoever won is a team we're just hearing about. If you get 8 or 10 games revealed, 4 of them are one team. That doesn't feel like that's what usually happens here. So it just seems like an odd year for that.
I have a tough time as here we go again, just sitting here guessing and riffing on the schedule, saying that the league isn't just doing fine when it comes to how they disseminate information. I have a tough time. I want it too. I want to spin a wheel and have a number come up and have that week's schedule pop up just for to go to sleep. Spin a wheel, 7. Great. Here's week 7. Selfishly, I'd like something like that, but I have a tough time saying that the league isn't doing right by how they do it. It's just another master stroke where they make it didn't always work like this just in terms of revealing the schedule. I don't even remember how they did it when I was a kid. It was just in the paper the next day or something like that.
I feel like the first time I usually saw the schedule when I was from age 20 to 30 was on a Budweiser sign in a bar. I swear, at least that's when I would look at it. Really look at it. I'm sure I saw it in the paper, like you said, or on a screen on TV, but I didn't have it memorized. I didn't have it saved on a computer because I didn't have one. I didn't know it, and your favorite bar would have the sign from a beer company, and it would have the schedule there, and then you'd sit there with your friends and try to pick out. I got 12-4. That's my memory of the NFL schedule is beer signs in bars.
New York AFC.
Right. Yeah, and the guy, the running back, the guy that is holding the ball and has a running back looking helmet would be wearing a non-running back number 53 or something. It'd be because they have no rights at all
to make sure no one confuses him for a real person.
Right. You can't have the likeness of Thurman Thomas on the sign. They're not an official sponsor, but fine, you can put that up there. So no logos, none of that, but just list of the games and fake football players with logoless helmets.
Well, it definitely wasn't any sort of a event.
No,
or
that's
a
right.
TV show or anything like that, like it is now. So yeah, it'd be cool to know something. We don't know anything about the Bills' schedule. We thought we had Christmas, and then people said maybe not. The Allen stuff with NBC. You thought week 1, maybe not. Maybe it's that Peacock game, maybe not. So here we are again, left to just sort of pontificate about it. And I don't know, like maybe that's fine. Maybe that's good. The stadium piece also makes it interesting to sort of think about this year in that context. The last year of the stadium. That has a logo now. The Bills have a farewell stadium logo now.
I watched. I didn't have the sound on. I saw some of a piece that they put out with Thurman Thomas narrating, walking around the stadium, and there's highlights interspersed. Maybe that's where I didn't catch the logo in that piece, but they did. Yeah, they did release something today, which I would have been nice to have a game attached to it, but no luck.
Yeah, and again, we're here to field any fans' opinion about how they should end it. I think week 1 is kind of special too this year, or not week 1, but home game number 1 because of the stadium, like the last opener. But not everything is going to be exactly how the Bills want it or how we would want it sentimentally. And it's also, of course, a team where you'd think there would be playoff games, and home or away, it's not like it's a given, but probably you're not looking at whatever home finale on the regular season, you would hope, regular season schedule is like it. But I still do like the symbolism of the last game. Maybe it ends up being that Week 17 Christmas special kind of game, too. I think that's fine. And I'd want that to be a team that, that matters in their history. That would be any of the division opponents. I think the Bengals are good enough where it's like, that's a good game. The Ravens would be that too. It's not so much history as it is like importance.
Marquee, yeah, right.
So I think any of that is fine, but I think maybe fans, now we have seats in the new place and the logo and everything, like more videos. It's starting to look like a real thing. And as we get the schedule out and closer to it, more thoughts will turn to, this is it. This will be the last opening day tailgate. That's, I think, the best day of the year is the home opener out there at Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. And, it's only across the street. It's not like...
Right, a lot of you will probably be parking in the same or very similar places when the new stadium opens, especially if you're on, private lots and not the Bills lots, because a lot of that is still going to be available. I mean, certainly some of it got swallowed up by the construction of the stadium, but, there's going to be enough. So it won't be that different. And, man, I saw a picture today. The stadium, I don't get out there that often to really drive by and see it myself. It's been a few months now since I've even done that myself, and it looked really far along then. And I saw a photo today of a couple of people walking at the top of Chestnut Ridge Park. And if you've been to Chestnut Ridge, you can stand there, you can see the city. And it was such a clear day. This picture was taken yesterday, I believe. You could even see Niagara Falls out in the distance. And the stadium, I mean, it looks like a stadium.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a construction site anymore. It just from that far away, it looks like a stadium.
Yes. 803-0550. If you want to join us, give us a call. You can do that. We have that. Sal Capaccio coming up at 4. More on the schedule, but there's some good playoff stuff to talk about. NBA plus the Leafs don't play tonight. There's only the one Western Conference game tonight, but lots of cool stuff to talk about there. And the PGA is this week. We'll touch on that. I don't have any picks ready for you, but you don't really care about that, so not to worry. And, we'll focus on the schedule, and maybe we'll even get, I'm not sure there's anything expected, but any sort of new information would be, great as we wander the proverbial schedule desert here, just gasping for breath. Any drops of water, please. See what happens. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog. Again, the number 803-0550. This is WGR.
keep it as least amount personal as possible. But at some point in this process, it becomes personal. You know, being sent 30 days before mandatory camp, or however many days it is, that if I don't show up, I will be fined, alludes to the fact that something won't get done in that time frame. With the lack of communication post-draft, made it evidently clear from my party that I had to inform that this might not work out. And that's unfortunate.
Ooh, I like that. Trey Hendrickson of the Bengals. I've never thought about this exact thing before, but when you get a warning so far in advance of what's going to happen if you don't get a thing done, that would piss me off too.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you're not getting what you want. You're not even getting dropped breadcrumbs alluding to what you want, right? Like it's not enough or really no communication about a contract. And, oh yeah, by the way, just so you know, this is out there. Yeah, that would set me off.
I mean, in my case, if I get I need you to get this done by X, which is like the end of summer, I will be annoyed by that. But I understand why it's being said. I have to admit, I get it. And I get upset, but I really have no right to.
It's a reasonable enough time frame.
Because I might have a reputation for putting everything off. So
right.
I understand why you're telling me, honey, that this needs to be done, and you're giving me enough time, and it really shouldn't be upsetting to me. But maybe Hendrickson has never given the Bengals any reason. It's a different situation. It's a negotiation, and they're just basically warning him, if you don't come in by 30 or 40 days, whatever his number was just then, you're going to get fined. And why would they say that to him so far in advance?
Right. Why would you think he doesn't know that?
Or that? I mean,
right. I mean, there's that. He's been in the league a long time. I think he knows how it works. But yeah, no, it sounds like, hey, just so you know, the GM's not calling with a new contract offer. He's not talking to your guy, and you've got 30 days to figure out, you're going to have to come here or you're going to start getting fined. So it does feel like a line in the sand from the organization through the coach. That's how it could be perceived anyway. I don't know. Maybe Zach Taylor just sent out, it's a mass text to the entire team. Reminding them, hey, you have to be here. Here are the dates. If you don't show up, you'll be fined. Plan your travel vacation schedules accordingly. Maybe. But this is a special case. This is a guy that is in. So you might want to not just include him in that and maybe make it a little more direct, or just not include him at all.
It doesn't sound like everybody got the same message.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like the Browns drafting Shadur Sanders and just sitting there clapping, and you have to acknowledge they drafted everybody else and they had the same reaction to everybody else. They looked maybe like they were watching it from a prison or something, and were not able to emote. There would have been lashings. There would have been punishment. So yeah, I mean Henderson doesn't sound good there. Steve is with us. Hello, Steve.
Hey guys, I just wanted to give a little perspective on the schedule. I'm a out of towner, and we've been talking about getting one more home game, before they close the new stadium. We've been talking about it since last year, and we're waiting to plan that one last trip up there. And we're really curious what that's going to do to the secondary ticket prices for everybody out there. In Bill's universe, it feels that they need to get that one last home game experience, especially, a lot of us haven't been back up 5-10 years. We catch them on the road when they're down in our town, but I'm really concerned that some of these ticket prices are going to jump more than people think.
For the last game.
Or maybe all season. You're thinking maybe, Steve. It makes sense that it would be it's a market-driven business, and the market should be a little more interested, I think, because it is the last time you get to do it. It's not a facet of this I have thought about. I do know that there are plenty of people who come to every game from far away. We've heard from them over the years, people that drive from North Carolina every weekend to come watch Bills football when they're at home. But it makes sense that if you haven't been, especially if you haven't been in a while and want to see it one more time, maybe there's a lot more people thinking the same thing, then that could drive the prices up, I suppose.
Well, it would. I mean, the playoffs kind of save you, but that won't be a cheap ticket either. I don't know. Like, I have to admit a couple things. One, the stadium piece is not so important to everybody. Like, it's really sort of a manufactured event, and they're just moving across the street, and that'll be amazing and exciting. So it's not like everybody is going to think that that's a huge deal. Like, some people are just not wired like that. I am somebody who is, and I am somebody also who is obsessed with endings. Everything to me is like, is this the last time? Not everything. Is this the last time I'm doing this? Mm-hmm. I will often be distracted, and I don't think in a healthy way, by the thought, like, whatever I'm doing, this is me doing it for the last time. I'm sort of like that. And so especially if I were someone that went to a lot of games, I have in my life, it would be to the point that this season, which otherwise is just like last year and previous years in how it's about winning a championship and maybe they can actually do it, this year the finality of the stadium would distract me. And say last year was it. And the Patriots was a road game. Who did they play before that? The Jets, right? Were the Jets maybe the last regular season home game last year? They won 40-14. Maybe it was 40-0 at one point. And that's a day where the playoffs are coming. Say it's the last year of the stadium. You're like, all right, well, this is special. I mean, it is anyway, but it's extra special because it's the last regular season game ever here. And it won't be the last game, period, but there's still that. And it's a win, it's a blowout, it's Aaron Rodgers, it's like all these sort of special things that will go down in history. But like if that happens this year, think about it. The playoffs come along and that takes precedence. And I had to think about, like, what game is it? Maybe you didn't remember what game it was out there. Like, just, oh yeah. So the playoffs come along and it's Denver in the wild card, and the Bills are a pretty good favorite. And you're out there and like, okay, well, here we go, the playoffs. Man, this might be the last time I'm ever in here. If they lose this game.
Yeah.
And like I think it breeds more of a thought toward losing. Like, it's just that if this is it, and you don't really want that. They beat Denver, and then it's Baltimore the next week, and those teams are sort of on par with each other, and like, all right, well, did we know that the following week would be away? I think we did. Kansas City had already won, so you knew if it's the last year, like that night, is it. Win or lose, that's the last game ever to be played there. And it just like adds.
Yeah, there would have been a lot more anxiety about the way that game, right down to the end, the drop 2-point conversion, everything I think is ratcheted up if you're wired that way. And I happen to be similar enough to you in this way to say that, so it's part of the reason why I even said yesterday, like, I doubt that the finale will be the last game there. I mean, they've had all home playoff game each of the last 4 seasons now, right? Or is it even 5 now?
I think it's 5.
Okay. So, we've grown to expect that. We shouldn't necessarily think it's guaranteed, but, you go in thinking that I want as easy an opponent for the final game as possible. Like, I want it to be a good memory, right? I don't know that I'm obsessed with endings, but I'm thinking about that ending, and like, give me a division game It doesn't even matter who it is. I'd prefer the Jets because they were the first regular season game in the stadium, and that also happens to be maybe the most tomato can-ish team on your schedule. So that would work really well for me. But it's rooted in a fear of the memory being tarnished in some way. That I'm here one last time. This guy is maybe he's going to come with his family from wherever. He didn't say where he was coming from, but people are going to come from far away for the final Bills game in the stadium, the regular season game, the one they know they can buy a ticket to in when the schedule gets revealed or whenever single game seats go on sale, whatever. When the secondary market starts being available, and you're going to do that. You're going to come here, and you're going to want, even if there's playoff games a week later or 2 weeks later, you're probably not making that trip again. You're going to want that to be a good memory. That was the motivation behind me, like wishing for the Jets at the end. Not just the synergy part, but they're a good opponent for this because you want it to be a special day that isn't marred by a loss to somebody.
It'll just be so interesting how up in the air the ending will be because of the playoffs. If you can imagine 2 years ago being the last year of the stadium, that was the year they were 6-6 at one point. And they get to 9-6, and in week 17 they played the Patriots at home on New Year's Eve. That was the home finale. They won a relatively close game against New England, but you leave that day, you wouldn't know if that was it. There'd be a chance, but that's the year where the next week they go to Miami.
Right, you would have left that day not even knowing for sure that they were going to be in the playoffs.
That's what I mean. There was a fair chance that would have been the last game there. And so, that would be really on your mind if you are somebody that cares about that, which I think is most of us. And then the Bills go to Miami. Had they lost to Miami, I think they would have gone back there the next week, but there's no home game coming.
Right.
If they don't win the game in Miami, which was a close game, they won on a punt return. So if that's the last year of the stadium, that's kind of weird. But it turns out that they do end up coming back, and that's Kansas City. If that's the last year of the stadium, the loss to the Chiefs is it. And then, the way it's going over the years will be like, yeah, it made sense. That probably is how it should have ended. That's fitting.
Right.
So you think about any of these other years where there is like a playoff expectation. All the Bills have to, listen to me now, like this is nothing. All the Bills have to do to guarantee a home playoff game in the real last year of the stadium is win the division. No matter what, they don't have to be the 1 seed. They don't have to be anything more than better than Miami Jets Patriots. So if they're that, then there will definitely be at least one home game in the playoffs. And then whatever you want to do with the regular season, just do it. It might be over like it has been last year, other years. When was the division either literally locked up or realistically locked up last year? There were 5 weeks left in the season. When they beat San Francisco, that was the end of the race.
That was the clinching moment. Yeah, I think
had 6 games left.
San Francisco game. That was December 1st.
That was December 1st. They had 5 games left after that. And the whole time you would have known, okay, this is the last regular season, but there'll be more. That's right.
Yeah.
And there were 2 games. 803-0550. Thank you, Steve. Mike Schopp and the Bulldogs. Sal at 4. This is WGR. pondering the Bills schedule, which is not out yet. In fact, we don't have any game locked down at this point. And especially or specifically in the last little while, the end of the season with the stadium closing after this year, and just how it might be amazing and like the kind of day you never forget whenever the regular season ends at the stadium, or it might be anticlimactic because they're going to host the Ravens again in the playoffs the next week. Who knows? Pete is next. Hello, Pete.
Yeah, I was wondering, gentlemen, we haven't talked about what if that last game doesn't mean anything? That'd be crazy with all the starters sitting.
Yes, that's right. Bulldog is sort of in this kick lately where he wants the game to be as easy on paper as it could get, and I come back with that point.
Yeah.
That if it's that Patriot game from last year and it's Mike White taking the last snaps at the stadium,
Right.
I don't know. Like, it's again, playoffs are coming. But I agree. I don't think I want that either. I don't know. How much can I really ask for? What do I want?
Depends, I think. Not for pre-planning, like for people who are going to buy tickets before the season begins to try to be at the last game at the stadium. But if everyone is sitting down because they've clinched the 1 seed and you know you've got ideally 2 playoff games, provided you win the divisional round game, then the whole can proverbially just kind of gets kicked down the road, I think, to an extent, and you get your wish. I think you'd mind watching Mike White play that game if you know, again, not speaking for people who are making the trip special to be at the last game. Like, that would take a lot out of it. I understand. But if you're all set to that extent, although, we've seen them sit. I mean, they sat last year and they didn't. I mean, they clinched, but they only clinched the 2, not the 1. So that's how it goes sometimes. So yeah, no, that's a good point. That would I don't know, tarnish is too strong, but it would take something away from the day for sure. If the regulars aren't playing, that might be a good reason to have the game be on the road in Week 18. You have a better chance of needing to play in Week 17.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if whatever suggestions, wish list type stuff teams can have with the league, I wonder if anyone thought of that. Can we just finish up Week 17 at home, please? Just because we want everyone to see the full show.
Well, that could be what we talked about a lot yesterday, which is that Christmas weekend in prime time. There are 8 so-called island games that week, Week 17 this year. 3 on Christmas, 3rd being Denver, Kansas City. That's the one we know, the night game on Christmas. 3 on Saturday, including the Peacock exclusive on Saturday night. And there's also a Sunday night, and there's also a Monday night. So you'd have 8 opportunities to, if you will, put a bow on the Bills, stadium history in a game that everybody will see. And that would, then you have Week 18 on the road. That's what I would do. Like, the schedule people have the whole league in mind, but if I were the Bills, that's what I'd want. I'd want the Peacock game. Saturday night, maybe I get snow. In fact, Bulldog, I mean, for all the times you called me out for not doing any prep. Last night for ADP chasing, I didn't end up even using it this morning. Sure, I'll prep for that show, you're probably thinking. But those guys want to know when the schedule comes out, it's best ball tournament time, who's playing whom in Week 17. Week 17 is, as they say, all that matters. So I went through and made a fake, I wasn't going to trick anybody. This was obviously going to be just one hypothetical, a fake Week 17 schedule. And I put Bengals-Bills in the Peacock game on my schedule. That's what I picked. And I love that it worked out, that I didn't have to go moving teams around because the way it went for me, everybody had it fit. And I thought, what I could do better here is find out what the weather is expected to be for that particular day, that weekend, in all these places.
That information is available?
Sure. So I did some kind of a Google search, and the first
How accurate is it?
We'll see, I guess. I have it right here if you want it. I'll tell you what our weather is expected to be on December 27th in just a second. The first link that comes up is the Farmer's Almanac. That's
Okay.
not surprising, right?
No, that's not. That's where you'd go for that.
That's where you'd go for that. If anything is surprising about it, it's that the Farmer's Almanac is online.
Or still exists at all. Yes. Okay.
Sure. But so I clicked on the Farmer's Almanac link. You needed to pay them.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't just going to give me
That's how they get you.
they get your money.
Yep.
They weren't just going to give me the forecast for Orchard Park on December 27th. So I went to some other site. And it said heavy snow. 35 and heavy snow. I got everybody's. There was moderate snow.
Oh, no.
And another one.
Oh, no.
Who had moderate snow? Green Bay.
What if it's so bad the game needs to be moved to Cincinnati?
The last game in the history of the stadium is moved to Detroit because of the snow.
This is peak scheduling speculation right here. Is what
I would like to think so,
we
yes.
have reached the summit. I don't know where we go from here. It's only 5 minutes before 4. I don't know. I don't know what else we do.
Cleveland, by the way, that weekend, patchy rain in 39, just so you know. Sal Capaccio after sports here on WGR.
Couple announcements as we head towards the Wednesday 8 p.m. reveal. Today, the entire slate of the international games was released this morning, though no international games for the Bills this year. Some notes, though, on the slate. The Vikings spend back-to-back weeks in the British Isles, first in Dublin against the Steelers, September 28th, then London against the Browns on October 5th. We also have the Madrid game. That's Miami taking on Washington on November 16th. And coverage of the NFL schedule release on WGR is presented by Window Nation, the perfect fit for your home and wallet. We'll get more on the schedule and plenty more as Sal Capaccio joins the show next, so do stay tuned for that. Bengals edge Trey Hendrickson spoke today with the local media. He continues to push for a new deal. Hendrickson said he would not play under his current contract and that this process for him has become personal as he deals with his team and the Bengals. One game tonight in the Stanley Cup playoffs is Game 4 of Stars-Jets. Dallas hosts tonight at 8. They lead this series 2-1, and all signs are pointing to them getting reinforcements. Defenseman Miro Heiskanen is expected to play tonight after going through morning skate, though nothing official as of yet. 2 games in the NBA, 7 p.m. The Cavs host Indiana. The Pacers, though, can advance in the Eastern Conference Finals where they win tonight. Then at 9:30, it's Game 5 of Nuggets Thunder in Oklahoma City. That series is all tied at 2 games apiece. Then in baseball, Bison's home against the Woo Sox just after 6. That game's going to be on our sister station, The Bet 1520. Then in the majors, just after 7, Blue Jays host the Rays, and the Mets have the Pirates in town. And at 9:40, the Yankees out west versus Seattle. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
See that Pete Rose was just reinstated by baseball?
Yeah, I just saw that as we were as the music was playing here. Yes.
That'd be a fun pivot from guessing at the schedule to just go like
Pete
the
Rose.
most comfortable shorts in the drawer that you haven't worn in forever. Does Pete Rose belong in the Hall of Fame? Oh.
Hey, don't leave out Shoeless Joe Jackson.
And Shoeless Joe Jackson. Those are the two, the very best sports topic and the very worst.
Right.
The very worst is, does Pete Rose belong in the Hall of Fame? The very best is, who should the Bills play in Week 10? That's as good as it gets. Some people would flip those. Sal Capaccio on the West Her hotline. Sal, is today a little bit of a disappointment so far in terms of schedule stuff? Just the one game in the morning. I know that we weren't necessarily to expect more, but yesterday was better.
I'm just blown away by this Pete Rose news you guys just dropped to me. I had no idea until you said that. And then I just looked at it, and I'm like, wow, that is crazy. And Shoeless Joe, by the way, it says. Right?
Yep.
That's what you said, Bulldog. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Both off the permanent ineligible list.
Wow. Okay. Well, here we go. This is one of the more striking topics of us, right?
Of our radio careers, which for me is like 30 years here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
100%. I think this is a major topic of, it's been kind of dormant for years. So anyway, I'm sorry, Mike, to digress there and divert, but wow, that was crazy. I did not know that, and I think this is really big news to talk about. I like the fact that the schedule leaks have not come. I tweeted out a little while ago. This is the first time I can remember since the slow schedule leak stuff started years ago and how they put these things out that we have 0 Bills games known yet. Even rumored. We don't know anything about the Bills schedule yet. I'm starting, I will tell you guys, I got a little clue here though. I'm starting to get some information from people that it could very well be Bills hosting Sunday Night Football Week 1. But I don't know that to be sure yet. And that's the closest thing I even have to anything, though.
Okay, well, that's always seemed possible.
Yes.
For them to get that game. And you and I spoke this morning. I think I might have told you that I think Baltimore is the only team for that game. I think Philadelphia and Kansas City are booked. I don't think the Bengals quite rate, but who knows what the thinking is, the logic is. I certainly don't have to be right about that. But the Ravens at Bills week 1 at night would, that's worthy of that slot.
I have been, the information that I've been getting from people who, again, nothing confirmed here, it would be Bengals. Bengals at Bills week 1 Sunday night.
Okay.
Yeah, Baltimore clearly, I mean, they obviously had the better season. I view those two teams as relatively equal going into this year. I'm willing to give the Bengals sort of I'm erasing the chalkboard for them for last year. Like, just try the assignment again. I think they'll be good. I think that division will be a slugfest between those two teams. So, to me, they're similar enough that either would have been an acceptable outcome to me if we end up there. And again, you're saying you don't have it, but you're hearing some things about it.
No, yeah, there's just a few things that I'm tying together, and a few people have kind of said this to me, and like, hey, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that, and it's now starting to come together. So it would line up for some other things that would be in line with that week that I've heard as well that have kind of come true already, including the opener and things like that. So that being said, look, I mean, whether it's true or not, I mean, that might be the only one, and that is the only one. We know games they're not playing yet. They're not playing Christmas night. They're not playing on the 2 afternoon Thanksgiving games. I'm pretty sure they're not playing Christmas at all, to be quite honest with you. We know they're not playing international.
Black Friday, Black Friday.
Yeah, Black Friday. That's right, Black Friday. That's right. To answer your question, though, Mike, when you started about, like, how much we've known and what it's about, like, yeah, I just think this is kind of wild. I like it. I like not knowing. It just reminds me of many, many years ago where one day you'd just kind of open up the newspaper and there's the Bills schedule for the season, right? Like, okay, there it is.
We were talking about this earlier, Sal, and I know I would have seen the Bills schedule prior to this happening because there's got to be time for these things to be manufactured. But I feel like when I was in my early 20s, the most time I would spend looking at the schedule, this is like, again, kids, pre-computers and smartphones, okay? The most time I would spend looking at the Bills schedule was on a beer company sign in a bar.
Right.
With no logos on helmets, and like the running back helmet guy carrying the balls wearing like a number in the 60s or something, because they can't have any likeness to anyone that's actually in the league playing professional football. But the schedule would be there with no logos, and you'd sit there with your friends and go, I don't know, man, Giants at home, whatever. That was the schedule to me.
Oh my gosh, that's right. It reminds me of, do you remember, I don't know if they did this, I'm sure they did where you grew up in West Seneca, but I remember, like, even our high school schedule came on a big cardboard thing with Pepsi on it and had all the games listed like that, right? Like, that's how we had schedules. Like, you just like, bam, there it is right in front of your face, and you'd put it up somewhere on a wall, and that's when you wanted to know, you'd refer to it somewhere. Now it's everywhere. It's in your face.
Right.
No matter where you turn, there's grids, there's color-coded grids everywhere, all those kinds of things. There's rest days. We got the miles thing today, right, from Adam Schefter. The Bills are the second fewest miles traveled of any team in the league this year.
Well, he doesn't. He doesn't know how they're going to go, though. Schefter. Like, he doesn't know which. When they go to Atlanta, he doesn't know that they won't go through Charlotte, just go way out of the way because they have a friend there that they want to. He doesn't know that yet, but if they go the best, by the GPS,
right.
he'll be right.
Flying home from Denver, they got to go to Atlanta first.
Like you.
Right, like I did.
Now, I did put in a couple numbers today during my show on with Josh, because Josh said the furthest west they go is Houston. I said, oh, okay. And then I go, wait a minute, but Miami might be actually farther. So I put it in. It's very similar. Houston is 1,400 miles. Miami is 1,300 miles. And so, but those are the farthest, literally the farthest the Bills go all year. And what's wild about this year's schedule for the Bills, every single game is in the Eastern time zone except the Houston game, which is in the Central time zone. That is it.
Yeah, that's nice for you and for the team. You're talking about how it used to be. The schedule and the draft are often like, it's the same time of year, and when the draft comes around, do you remember, staying home from school on a Tuesday and watching the NFL draft? Yes, I mean, that's how it used to be. But I don't remember how the schedule was announced in those days. You could have not heard about it, and then you're at this bar or something. Right. But it would have been on the news the day that, whatever day the schedule is announced by the league, by the Bills, it would have been, Ed Kilgore would have had it. I just don't remember I don't have a memory of that ever happening.
Right.
It would have been important to me.
Right.
I didn't go to games as a kid, but it would have been important to me the schedule. I just don't. The draft, sure, but the schedule, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure I saw it before the bar, but I don't remember really ever sitting with it. Just because it's just different now, to have it. First of all, these jobs, lend itself to that too. But I'm sure there's plenty of Bills fans that keep the Bills schedule in a window on their phone. Like it's just like a go-to. Who do we got next, or who's in 3 weeks, or when do we play whoever? And you just didn't have that. Who would be?
I bet I'm gonna have to reach out to Murph and ask him. Like Murph was doing the broadcasts back then, right? Mm-hmm. Well before the internet. He's on with Van. And he's also the Channel 7 sports director at the time. He's an anchor. So he'd be a great guy. I'm going to reach out and ask him, like, what was it like? Do you remember when the schedule came out, and you see if he remembers? Oh, yeah, like they just literally would, just kind of mail it to us. Yeah. Not even email it. Yeah, fax it to us. Exactly.
I remember
right.
at BEN in the mid-'90s. I started there in 94, had a show by 95. I can remember that coming off the fax machine. A copy of the schedule. that maybe that was it. That's how and then the media would then do their thing and tell you on TV or on radio.
I've told you guys, I've mentioned this enough times, so you might know it. But 2002, I think it was, right before I came over here, just sitting around the day the schedule was supposed to come out, going to BuffaloBills.com, clicking on the schedule, which would have been last year's, changing the year in the URL and having it pop up. I told my guys at ADP Chasing today this story. They're all at least 10 years younger than I am. They could not believe it. and Corain was so funny about it. He's like, somebody just thought maybe they would forget to do it. So they typed it all in and set it all up just to make sure that later, when they remember they were supposed to post it, they could just hit a button and not have to just do it later. They just could not believe that it was like that.
That's the kind of thing I would do if I had that job, because I want to get an early start.
Yeah. Well, somewhere in there on the Bills website, it's there.
Right.
I mean, how to encrypt it or whatever. Like I wouldn't even know where to start. But in 2002, all you had to do was change the number of the year in the URL. Boom. Sal Capaccio on the West Her hotline today. So far, with the schedule in mind, there's no new games to talk about that are official or anything. But we know it's the last year of the stadium. What do you think is optimal? If of course, there are 32 teams to consider. If the Bills had it their way, how the season would end in the regular season, knowing, all you have to do, listen to me, right? All you have to do is win the AFC East. All you have to do is win the AFC East. You'll have at least one more home game. But still, if it were up to them, tell us what you want. It's the last year of the stadium. How do you want to close it? What would you go for?
So I would think they'd want a divisional opponent that is also something that's kind of I didn't even say divisional. I think divisional comes to mind first, but it's something that you can kind of lean on your history with, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe that's even AFL, but I think divisional. So to me, Miami's the first team that comes to mind. But whether it's Miami, New York, or New England, I think they all fit, but I think Miami's the number one. So to me, it's Miami coming up here in the cold and snow. You love getting them up here in that time of the year anyway. Have that happen. And I think week 17, not week 18, would be optimal, because then if you have a chance to clinch the division, that is maybe the more likely week that you do it, considering maybe week 18, you don't even play Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Right? So I think the optimal would be, if you're going to try to envision a scenario for the league and you think, what's the best way to maximize everything we have going here? I think it's Miami at home at night, week 17.
I like it a lot. I agree with the week 17 point.
Yeah, I've come around on that. We had a caller earlier who brought up, like, it's week 18, maybe they're not even playing. And I don't. You can just turn that into a big party because you've clinched, and I said if you even clinch the one, like that's just it's like the 51-3 game. It's like, whoop, we're partying down here, but I think you'd want you want to see the guys play, right? So I think week 17 makes more sense there. I've liked the Jets for that spot, Sale, because I'm a big synergy guy, right? And the first regular season home game at the stadium was the Jets. So I like that as a bookend, but really any divisional team works. And Miami's always been a bigger rival than the Jets have been. So, I could get with that.
And the Jets, I mean, you go back to AFL days, and it's you could really lean on a lot there too, right? With some of that history for sure.
Their first ever game, period, was at New York Titans, but I think that was their first ever game, period. So, okay.
What do you think about the Peacock Saturday night thing? Like we were yesterday thinking Josh Allen was going to be on the Today Show tomorrow, for a second time, and that got scuttled here, so he's not doing that. But that had us talking about the synergy between Hallmark and Peacock and NBC, and maybe that's why he's going on the show. I think you heard some of that, and we're communicating with us off the air. Do you think they're live for that Peacock Saturday night game? And could that be this, like Bills Dolphins or Bills Jets or like whomever?
I definitely think they could be in that game, but I heard your discussion yesterday, and I think you I'm not at the same spot you guys are. I think it's clear to me the way I read the release, we're not getting an actual matchup on that game.
Okay.
Yet. I read the release. It says the sentence says. The Peacock holiday exclusive will be selected from a pool of key NFL Week 17 Saturday matchups.
Okay.
So they're going to tell you which games are going to be on Saturday, and then they're going to pick one of those to go at the night game on Peacock.
Once they get rolling and see
later.
Who's good or what the best matchup is, maybe. Yeah, okay.
So that's the way I read the release. Mike and I talked about it today, and Mike said it's just ambiguous enough to look at it a different way, and that's fine. I respect that. It's not how I read it. I read it as we're not telling you what that Saturday night game is like we did a couple years ago, as you brought up yesterday.
Yeah,
Bulldog,
right.
with
That's
the
why
Chargers
I was
game.
leaning on that. Yeah. Right.
Right. However, as part of this release, it does say, and Sunday Night Football on NBC on December 28th. I think the Bills could also be in that window, which is Sunday night, in Week 17. I do think they'd be live for the Saturday night game as well as the Sunday night game. I just don't think they're going to reveal a game on that Saturday night. It's going to be, here's our pool of games. One of them will be that. I have no idea if there's any correlation between Hallmark and Peacock. I don't know that.
Well,
I've always felt, though, with the movie coming out, the Hallmark movie on the Bills, that something that week would be a little different with the Bills and them being more national.
Well, I didn't go really deep on this. I did some Googling yesterday with Hallmark and couldn't find an affiliation or ownership where they're under some big other network or streaming service. But a listener that I somewhat trust, whatever. We've communicated before, and it's never been wacky. Said there is Hallmark stuff streams with Peacock and NBC, or with Peacock. Okay. There's a synergy there, and that's where I made that connection, and that could be pretty flimsy. But that's why
It could. I do think the Hallmark game matters. I've said that for a while. That's why I always thought they'd be on Christmas, but we know they're not on Christmas night. And from what I understand from people I've talked to, I don't think the Bills are going to get any Christmas game. It could happen. It's not confirmed, but I just don't think it's going to happen. So I just believe much more now either Sunday Night Football or one of those Saturday games where they put them in a window. And by the way, those Saturday games, usually they've had 3 and they've had 2. We don't know what they're going to do this year. They're going to have they've had a 1, a 4:30, and a 8, and then sometimes they only do the 4:30 and the 8. I don't know what the plan is this year.
Yeah.
For that.
And Kansas City did get Christmas.
Yeah, how about that?
We had the story about how they wanted it, and then there was some reason to think that they wouldn't use the same teams this year that came up, but they're using Kansas City again.
Yeah.
So that's a thing.
Right. They said they wanted it. They wanted to be like Detroit or Dallas with Christmas, Kansas City. And the commissioner, I think, pretty pointedly said, we're not going to do that. But they still gave them this game this year.
Christmas night.
Yeah.
That'll be the night game against Denver. What's the line if it's Cincinnati at Buffalo week 1? 4?
I say Bills 3.5 to 4, somewhere in there.
What would you take? Would you give the 4, Bulldog? You're a player.
Yeah, I'm at home.
You'd give the 4?
Yeah.
Cincy traditionally just is not a good starting team.
That's right. Terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, they've been very. They lost at home to New England last year to start the season.
They lost at home to New England. Was it the year before when they went to Cleveland and got buried when Burrow was coming off that camp injury?
Yeah.
I think that was 2 years ago. Just really bad to start the year. So. I don't know. Maybe
16 to 10 last year.
Cost them their season.
And then the year, And then 24-3. You're right, Mike. The year before that.
Yeah, they had like 100 yards or something in that game against the Browns.
Last time they won a opener was in 2021 against the Vikings, 27-24.
Overtime, maybe. Yeah, and they had a Steelers game in between there, I think. And I remember they had never played the Steelers week 1, maybe, or hadn't in forever. And this game they sort of gave away. Like they scored late, tied it. That was, I think, also an overtime game. And Pittsburgh was basically Pittsburgh that day.
Right.
They weren't good, but they
that
won
was
the game.
The game with all
Cincinnati.
the bad snaps, right? They would have a bunch of bad snaps or something long timing, right? I think something like that happened
maybe
in that game.
Yeah. I don't know. There's something about it. Maybe it's a little bit this. I wasn't thinking about it before, but there's something about playing the Bengals first that I like for the Bills. Not even just that. Just like before they get rolling. Maybe it is. Maybe it's the same point.
Yeah.
Maybe it is the same point. Well, interesting. I wouldn't think Cincinnati is quite on the level for a primetime opener. The Sunday night game is bigger than the Monday, but maybe they are. And we'll find out no later than tomorrow night.
What's tomorrow, by the way? Do we got Today Show? We know Josh isn't on the Today Show.
Yeah, and
But isn't tomorrow
while you were answering the last question, he was booked for Thursday on the Today Show and then canceled again. So that was quick. We didn't even really have time to pontificate about that. I think tomorrow is Netflix.
There is some stuff tomorrow. Hang on, I've had the whole rundown in a release here that now suddenly, because I'm saying it on the air, I cannot find it.
Well, what's left? CBS is left.
CBS is left, and Netflix is supposed to be tomorrow. That all sounds right.
We have everybody else.
Yeah.
Is this the latest we've ever gone without knowing the Thanksgiving opponents for Dallas and Detroit as well?
Well, maybe.
Maybe.
That's more that's tougher now. Because they'll pick from any conference, it's just it used to be aligned with the networks, and it's not anymore. That makes that tougher. Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right. CBS this morning, or whatever their show is, they're going to have something tomorrow morning. And the Netflix games.
Yes, and what was just the recent controversy about that show that was so funny? Belichick. That was the CBS
that interview
Sunday morning, maybe, and it was like all controversial because he said that the interviewer went too far and they had a certain understanding and everything. And like Trista had the tweet for this, which is basically, if you've ever seen that show, this is the Sunday show, like basically only kind of talk about puppies. There's really never anything hard hitting.
Right.
It's just sort of think of like if it's. Has the show ever sounded older, like Charles Kuralt or Charles Osgood? It's all these kind of like feel good,
right?
Davy and Goliath type
not a
stuff.
hard-hitting news magazine.
No, and Belichick was like that statement he issued about how he thought the process was out of line or whatever. All right. Anyway, Sal, thank you. If we get anything fun, maybe we'll reach out here.
All right, guys, you got it. I'll be here.
All right, that's Sal Capaccio on the West Her Hotline. His appearances are always brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet?
Lines are open. We'll look for your calls again next, 803-0550. What do you want? Earlier, we're talking about the best way for the Bills' schedule to end, thinking about the stadium. We've had that conversation a few times, but we're coming up on the reveal here tomorrow night. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog back after sports on WGR.
Big news out of baseball. MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred removed Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and other deceased players from the league's permanently ineligible list. Manfred ruled the MLB's punishment of banned individuals ends upon their deaths. Now those players are thought to be eligible to be voted into the Hall of Fame. To the schedule release, it is not until tomorrow night at 8 p.m., but we are continuing to get little crumbs for the 2025 schedule, and today that includes the entire slate of international games. Some notes on that: the Vikings are going to spend back-to-back weeks in the British Isles, first in Dublin against the Steelers on September 28th, then in London against the Browns on October 5th. We also got the Madrid game, as Miami is going to take on Washington on November 16th. And coverage of the NFL schedule release on WGR is presented by Window Nation, the perfect fit for your home and wallet. We also have playoff action tonight. One game in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Game 4 of Stars-Jets. Dallas hosts tonight at 8. They lead that series 2-1, and all signs are pointing to them getting reinforcements as defenseman Miro Heiskanen is expected to play tonight. He has been activated from IR. Heiskanen, though, has not played since January 28th. And then 2 games in the NBA. 7 p.m., the Cavs host Indiana, but it's the Pacers who can advance to the Eastern Conference Finals where they win tonight. Then at 9:30, Game 5 of Nuggets Thunder in Oklahoma. That series is all tied at 2 games apiece. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
I think the Bengals, I don't want to say have ruined chances because there's a lot of time till the season, but certainly mismanaged it. And you have a guy that has been an absolute star on the field. He's an unbelievable representative off the field. And if Trey Hendrickson's a Bengal next year, they're one of those very small groups of teams that you sit there and say, yeah, they can win the Super Bowl. If he's not, because you're not going to replace him in the draft this year, and I know they drafted Shamar Stewart, I just don't see them as legit contenders.
Dan Orlovsky of ESPN on Bengals edge rusher Trey Hendrickson. Hendrickson spoke today expressing some frustration over his not having a new contract. According to PFF, 3rd in the league in sacks last 4 years. I mean, you wouldn't have to be PFF to be able to count that. Anybody could count that.
Yeah.
2nd in pressure rate. There's a PFF special right there, pressure rate.
Right. Yeah, I think he led the league in sacks last year.
Did he? You and I could, watch a play and one of us could say that counts as a pressure and the other maybe wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's like a rule for what constitutes pressure.
Right.
We all feel pressure differently.
Real quick here, I hate to be like a prisoner of the moment or like the last thing that happened when we were watching one of these contract standoffs between a player and a team unfold. They often do get settled. As acrimonious as it sounds at a given time. Myles Garrett made the rounds at the Super Bowl, used his own GM's words against him in laying out, like, I want to get out of here. I don't want to go from Cleveland to Canton. I want to go to the Super Bowl and stuff like that. It sounded like that. There's no way they're going to find their way to common ground. And then one Sunday morning they did. And that was the end of that. And so now I'm watching this thing with the Bengals. It's been going on for a few weeks here. And I mostly am just like, yeah, they'll just settle it because of Garrett. Like, this has not sounded as acrimonious as the Garrett thing, but now today, the spectacle of him in street clothes while his teammates are practicing behind him, and he's talking for almost 25 minutes about all this stuff. I mean, again, bridges aren't burned. There's time. But, man, it just does not sound like a very good situation. But despite that, because Garrett got settled, I'm inclined to go, yeah, they'll probably figure it out. Because he's got to matter a lot. They're in a Super Bowl window. They're paying everybody. Right? I mean, they kept their receivers. They got that straight. Why not this guy? I don't know if at his age I'd want my team necessarily to sign up for like a lot more new money that's going to hurt me in a couple of years when he's no longer in his prime. But you're trying to win the Super Bowl, and he matters a lot. Nobody else on that team even approached double-digit sacks, and he had 17.5.
17.5. Kevin is with us. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. How are we?
Good. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Good. Listen, the real question with the end of the stadium coming up, what memorabilia will be available for sale after it closes? I would love to get some unique pieces from there, but I would just want your guys' opinion.
What do we? You mean like signage, seats?
Well, yeah, you have. So like I have a piece of turf from the last time they sold turf.
Mm-hmm.
I have a chair from the first when they replaced all the chairs. Game signage. I mean, like, are they going to sell the names off the Wall of Fame? Are they going to? How about the urinal from the bathroom that everybody uses to,
or you mean the sink that gets used as a urinal? I don't know. I mean, it's not something I thought of. I wonder how when they were replacing seats, they had to obviously remove seats. So then you've got seats intact. I wonder how just seats in general. Is it easier to just blow the whole thing up, seats included, and just it's rubble? Or is it worth, like, are the seats worth enough to have workers, because I don't think there's any way to do this other than having somebody with, like, a socket wrench or a power tool of some kind, loosening bolts.
Too soon.
Loosening the bolts and, removing the seats one at a time. That could be really expensive to do. I don't know if it's offset by the benefit of selling them to people who would want to buy them. Maybe you could do that with a certain number, and that increases demand, and then you're going to get a premium price for, if we only have 1,000 of these seats to sell that we bothered to take out, maybe 1,000 of the 1,000 of the blue seats, 1,000 of the red seats, and I don't know. I just think it would be cumbersome to remove 71,000 seats from where they are currently fixed there. And so I kind of doubt that would happen on that level, but...
Are we still benches up top anyway?
I haven't been up top in so long, I don't even know.
I think so.
I would think some of that will be available, but I wouldn't expect it to be, the whole stadium allotment.
I don't know. It sounds like something where you'd have to know somebody, right? Like... That could be this kind of thing, memorabilia, jerseys or something. Like, if you know somebody, you probably could get what you want. But otherwise, maybe not. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of fans would be like, let me go in there and undo the seat, and I'll just take it.
I want
absolutely not.
I want my seat, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
I don't remember. I mean, I've been on the radio while it was happening, and I know people have. I don't know that I've ever seen any gold seats in somewhere from the Odd, but I know I've seen oranges and blues. I don't think I've even seen any reds that I can remember. I'm not saying they're not out there. I'm just saying my experience. I've seen oranges, I've seen blues, but I don't know. Again, did they remove 16,000 seats from the Odd and sell them, or make them available, or they were stolen from a dump somewhere? I don't know how that happened, but I doubt that every seat in there was taken out and saved for posterity.
Is there anything you'd want?
If I had been sitting in a seat for 10 years or 50 years, I'd be interested in the seat, like the specific, at least the number. I don't know if it make that much of a difference if it's row 10 or row 9, but if I sat in seat number 22 for 20 years,
okay,
I'd like a seat with 22 on it, maybe. That's the most, like, I don't really care about the restrooms. I suppose there are certain, I mean, if you could get a Jack Kemp from the Wall of Fame, that might be pretty cool too.
I can't believe they would hawk the names on the Wall of Fame. Just move them. I don't know what they're going to do with the new plan. They could make it look
right.
I mean, it does look like, and maybe it should look like, they just, somebody new, throw them up there, like fit it in. Like there's no rhyme or reason to the, unless they might be chronological, but it just feels like the Wall of Fame names are just kind of like almost random by how they're ordered. You wouldn't.
I don't think
they're individual letters. Like you wouldn't sell names of the people.
What do you got there? I got a K.
I got a K from Kemp.
Is it? How do you know? Is it Kelly or Kemp?
Kelsu.
Right.
Actually, Kelsu.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. That seems like that wouldn't happen. All these are questions that are coming down the road. I mean, what happens to the stuff? I think I'd want a pylon, if anything, from the stadium. I think one of those end zone pylons would be cool.
With a camera in it?
With a camera in it. And then I'd just kick it. It would just pop right back up. That's what I want. I want a pylon. And I do know people. Maybe I'll end up with a pylon.
Right.
No, I never asked for a favor over there.
Yeah.
What do I want here? So week 1, the Friday night is not official, but everybody's on the same page. Kansas City at the LA Chargers, or versus the LA Chargers from Brazil. And the report is, and I think this is official, that YouTube will stream it for free. That's what's going to happen for that game. It'll be on YouTube for free. Get you over to YouTube, pitch Sunday Ticket at you constantly. Maybe leave it right there on the screen, the link, the QR code for Sunday Ticket, the whole game, something like that. But that's okay. At least you don't have to buy it. Next year you will.
Right. Yeah. And I think, I was sort of, curious. The Netflix thing, because they had what did they have? The week before the NFL games on Christmas Day, there was Tyson Jake Paul or something. Was there some sort of boxing exhibition that was streaming that was a disaster? Like people, the feed was just crashing out all over the place, and like, oh God, here comes NFL games on Christmas Day. And I mean, I can't speak for everybody. In my house, it was one of the prettiest pictures I've ever seen for a football game. It was amazing. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of, YouTube, their servers are going to crash because so many people are going to be watching. I don't know. Netflix got through it, and it looked great.
Which game was that? Chiefs Steelers?
The Chiefs Steelers. The first game of the day was it looked tremendous. So I'd be optimistic YouTube will be able to pull it off without you getting like glitched to hell here.
Glitched to hell.
Yeah.
We don't want that.
No, not in 2025.
No. Let's get past that. What is the Bills' best road game? Again, I embarked on a schedule here, but it's not going to work.
What's the problem now?
No matter what I do from here, I'm going to have 3 home games in a row. And there will never be 3 home. I shouldn't say never. It's probably happened, but I would not want to predict 3-game homestands or road trips. The fact that there's that extra home game, when you just try to slot these in, you got to make sure to account for that.
Yeah,
I just do them sort of haphazardly.
They did have a 3-game road trip last year.
Did they?
Baltimore, Houston, New York. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Maybe I should just keep going.
Don't give up.
I do have 3 road games in a row with the bye week in the middle. Nobody cares. Doesn't matter. I'm just guessing at it. 803-0550. Last year at the stadium, how should the home schedule end? What would you want to do there? Anything you might be hoping for? What I'm hoping for is any sort of information on what it will actually be. That's what I'm hoping for. But I think I'm up against the odds here. Doesn't look good for me. Lines are open for your calls. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR. Welcome back. We're mostly talking schedule again. Here's Laura next. Hi, Laura.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you, Laura.
So you guys were talking about the stadium and what people would want. So we've had season tickets, my husband and I, for 15 years in the end zone, and those seats are bleacher seats. So every third down, everyone bangs on the seat in front of you or like that whole metal bleacher row.
Mm-hmm.
And the new stadium's not going to have that anymore. They're all individual seats, and that's what I'm going to miss the most. So I want a piece of that, almost like the costume piece. I want to take that with me and bang on it in the new stadium. That's what I want.
Okay, just make sure you don't sneak it in a bag that's too big.
I want like a shield and a badge of armor with me.
Right.
Good luck on this one, Laura.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, all
We'll
right.
see how that works.
Yeah, get there. Get it done.
Boy, I'll bet this is the kind of thing that when people... there's definitely a lot of people that are way more familiar with the signage and just the building itself that have been walking around. Like the last few years that we were going there, I parked and went to the press box, and that was it. Like I was not walking around the concourses, feeling the stadium, really ever. I mostly just went. I got there in time to go eat breakfast and then watch a football game and then do post game and get out of there. It's the kind of thing I feel like if I were to walk through there tomorrow afternoon, I got access to the stadium, I bet I'd see dozens of things. I'd be like, man, that'd be a cool thing to have. I bet that would be a cool thing to have. Even just from our like places that we get to go that other people, most fans don't get to go, the studios where the broadcast booths are, that row where we would work, there I believe is a sign for the Van Miller broadcast booth. Mm-hmm. That's not a sign that I would lay claim to. It should go to Van's family or Murph or somebody that worked in there for their lifetime, their professional life. But that's a cool item. That to me that would be really, really cool.
I'd have this problem with any of these things very much, and have been at a point in life where don't you dare bring any more crap into this house. Where are you going to put that? No, she doesn't really sound like this. Don't bring anything new in that you don't have a plan for, and you're not prepared to get rid of something else. So there's got to be a push at least. Hopefully, even better, a net negative. Bring in your new Bills Stadium memorabilia, fine. Get rid of 80 other things. That would be okay.
The similarities that we have with our spouses in the reverse roles, like I am your wife with my wife in this story. That's exactly that. You should see my garage is not even big enough to park a car in the first place, right? But I use it for lawn stuff and a bicycle in the spring and summer. There is so much stuff in there that just showed up in the back of her car that I don't know what's ever going to happen to it or with it, but like I have to move stuff to get the snowblower out.
Yeah.
I have to move stuff to get my bike out now. It's so, what are we doing? Why is there a dresser in the garage?
Why is there a dresser in the garage?
Why is there a dresser in here?
Who put that there?
What is happening? One day I just went out there and it was there. Like, why? What are we doing?
Mike, we talked about this. We don't have room for the Bills scoreboard in the basement. Where are you going to put the scoreboard? I don't know. Maybe up against the side of the house so people could see it. How are you going to get it here? I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet, but I'll get Scott, my brother-in-law. He's got a truck. We'll just head on over to the stadium, snag the scoreboard, and haul it over. I do have one odd thing, and it's through a guy, and I wish I could remember his name, but it's someone I came to know through the show. It might have been an earlier show than this one, a long time ago. But he had a collection of the nameplate, the signs of the visiting teams on the scoreboard at the Odd.
Yeah.
And I was very, I'm still this way, but sort of like a keen eye for the differences in the font. Like if they changed, the Maple Leafs were this, like the skinny letters, and they were the fat letters. And I only want the skinny letters. I'm not sure that's original, but like earlier days when the signs looked a certain way. And I have the Oilers one. Or there would have been at least 4 of those, right? Because 4 sides of the scoreboard.
Yeah.
I have an Oilers one. I know where that is. It doesn't take up much space.
Right.
It's not bothering anybody.
It doesn't
it's just
sound
a blue
cumbersome.
metal plate about this size, few feet long, 3 or 4 feet. And it says Oilers. Blue with white letters.
That's cool.
I like that.
I don't have anything from the odd.
That's not even my team, but
Yeah.
the Gretzky years, I was at the Gretzky record game.
Yeah, that makes it even cooler. Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah.
All I've got is remember the Jumbotron fell in the new
Yes.
arena? Yeah, I have a piece of that.
The piece of the Jumbotron.
I had a friend who knew a Zamboni driver or something, and so I got a piece of the Jumbotron that I've hung on to. That's my hockey memorabilia, and it's not even the old building.
The guy was collecting the pieces and giving them to his friends or something
I
like
suppose. I don't know. I just know I got presented, and it was entirely believable. Like it looks like something that would have been a piece of the Jumbotron. It's I don't know. It's 6 inches wide, maybe.
Schedule takes, including how the season really should end in terms of the schedule. Probably, or at least hopefully, playoffs too. I think probably is fair. And that sort of changes the dynamic a little bit. But we're talking about that. 803-0550 for your calls. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
International games for the Bills this year, as the entire slate was released this morning. Some notes from that. The Vikings are going to spend back-to-back weeks in the British Isles, first in Dublin against the Steelers on September 28th, then London against the Browns on October 5th. We also have the Madrid game, as Miami will take on Washington on November 16th. And coverage of the NFL schedule release on WGR is presented by Window Nation, the perfect fit for your home and wallet. One game tonight in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It is Game 4 of Stars-Jets. Dallas hosts tonight at 8. They lead that series 2-1, and all signs pointing to them getting reinforcements. Defenseman Miro Heiskanen is expected to play tonight after being activated from IR. Heiskanen has not played since January 28th. Two games in the NBA, 7 p.m. The Cavs host Indiana, but it is the Pacers who can advance to the Eastern Conference Finals tonight with a win. Then at 9:30, Game 5 of Nuggets Thunder in Oklahoma. That series is all tied at 2 games apiece. And then some news from last night, as it has been confirmed. Celtics All-Star Jason Tatum did undergo surgery today to repair a torn Achilles tendon. Game 5 of Celtics-Knicks is tomorrow night at 7. Then in baseball, MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred removed Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and other deceased players from the league's permanently ineligible list. Manfred ruled the MLB's punishment of banned individuals ends upon their death. Those players are now thought to be eligible to be voted into the Hall of Fame. And the Bisons, they are home against the Woo Sox just after 6. That game's going to be on our sister station, the Bet 1520. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Everything was neat. All the chairs were tucked in. It was fine. I didn't have to move anything, and I just walked through and came back. And then just now, I got up and walked around, did the same loop, and there were like 10 chairs as askew in there as I've ever seen. I don't understand. Like, what happened to those chairs?
It's Mike Schopp
I don't know. What would make the most sense?
and the Bulldog.
I am shook by this. Honest to God, I do not understand what just happened.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Did you go down there during a break and move the chairs?
I've been doing it every day.
It was me all along. On WGR Sports Radio 550.
I kind of miss that, actually. I kind of miss
Yeah.
just randomly going down to that conference room and moving stuff around just to see if you'll ever accuse me.
You shouldn't have gone as
comment.
hard as you went that one time because it was,
I was ready to
reach a conclusion.
resolution. on
Yeah,
that.
I understand.
The timing was so perfect. 5 o'clock on a Friday, you come in like early enough in the break where you could explain it all to me, and then it was just perfect.
Right. It did work out pretty well. Did you know, I don't know if you got the same tweet. I don't remember if you were tagged in it, but when you were talking about the Q-tips in the parking lot, somebody said, Bulldog, that should have been a gag you were doing, or you should try to. I'm like, I'm not that guy.
Well, you'd be littering.
Correct.
Like
Yeah.
if you told me for a joke I should dump Q-tips on the parking lot, no, I'm not doing it. Just
Yeah.
like it would be wrong. Whoever's doing it,
That
it
was
would be
wrong.
wrong.
Yeah, I suppose I could do it. Now, well, I can't do it now because we're talking about it. But I could have just put a whole bunch by your car and then made sure I cleaned them up afterwards.
Oh,
or
okay.
something. not leave them
Sure.
there to be. But anyway,
You could have.
it was a good gag by you, and it coincided with me being out of town. Right? Was that after I got back from vacation? I can't remember now.
I don't know.
Anyway, whatever. It was good.
The schedule comes out. The Bills schedule comes out tomorrow night. We don't have a single known game of theirs slotted. Of course, we always know who they will play and where, but just not when. Which, that alone is enough for some people to sort of distance themselves from the schedule. Like Will Graves, our guest yesterday, is like, we already know all the games. What is so interesting about the order? I do love it. Sal was on earlier and said, and if I'm misstating this, I hope you or he or someone will tell me, he's hearing more along the lines of the Bills opening Week 1 at home on Sunday night against Cincinnati. And I'd be not surprised or definitely not shocked by that, but just I don't know if I think of the Bengals really as like on that level for that game, but I'm also somebody who thinks sometimes the games week 1 aren't a fit because the matchup is too good. And I guess I might say Baltimore-Buffalo, for me,
qualifies.
I think it qualifies, yeah. It certainly Kansas City does, Philadelphia does, but those are not possibilities for week 1. They're already booked in other slots.
Yeah. Well, the Sunday night idea for them, it does make sense in that they are one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the league. And what do we know already? Well, we know the opener was going to be Philadelphia all along. They're the Super Bowl champs. We know Kansas City, although this still hasn't been officially announced, but we know Kansas City's going to be Friday night in Brazil against the Chargers. So you got the Eagles and the Chiefs, the 2 Super Bowl participants. I don't know where Washington fits into this, or Detroit for opening weekend anyway, but the Bills being in a prime spot for the first week of the season makes sense. If they're looking to put all of the top contenders or a few of the top contenders in standalone windows, the Bills certainly qualify, and then therefore Sunday night fills that need, if that's not a sloppy way to say it. Like if they were looking to put all the best teams in standalones, well, they'd be 3 for 3 there on those. Again, there's other teams that rank, I think, with Detroit and Washington, and in the AFC, Baltimore certainly ranks. But that might be my list. So we'll see. Maybe one of those 2 teams will be a Monday night game, and you've got all the heavy hitters or most of the heavy hitters represented in standalone primetime type games.
Sure. This would be a first, right, to get the Sunday night opener. They've had the Thursday night opener as the Rams opponent,
right?
So they rated well enough to get that call. They had a Sunday night opener a long time ago against the Titans, maybe 2000 season, but that wasn't the signature.
Yep.
That wasn't the signature game that it is now. Then, and I don't think that there's been another. They've had the Monday night opener with Rodgers a couple of years ago, and I don't know, maybe another time, but this would be another new distinction for them if they got Sunday night week 1. How does it sound to you? 803-0550 is the number. When we talked to Sal, the point was made how the Bengals have been a poor early season team. I mean, last year, losing to New England in week 1, they had a couple of bad losses 2 years ago right away, one in Cleveland, and that can change, but I think from a competitive standpoint, I like it. I don't know why, really, other than that Cincinnati has kind of needed to warm up other seasons.
That's enough, I think, for competitive. That's enough. So I also like it, and I felt like they, even though they're not, Baltimore outranks them, they're close enough to me. And I like your point about, because you are the one who always says that. Always might be a little strong, but too good. The game's too good. You can't have Bills Chiefs that early in the year. You got to push it in more towards the middle. And the Ravens Bills probably meets that criteria more than the Bengals do. So it might fit pretty well. And I also think that the league would be right to be viewing the Bengals as, last year was just an aberration. They're on this level. We'll see if that's right. I mean, you got to go play some games. There was a lot that went wrong for them last year, and I don't know how well they've managed to supplement that. I mean, they're in a fight now with their best defensive player by a mile. Currently, Hendrickson's talking to the press today about it getting personal with him and the coach and all this stuff. So maybe there'll be some drama, but there's plenty of time to get that sorted out. I like it. The only thing I don't like about it is for sentimentality reasons, talking and thinking about what has been the most regular experience going to the stadium. It's been 1:00 Sunday. And so an opener is even more so enhanced. It's the first game of the season. Here we are. And it's, 8:00 in the morning, get the grill in the back of the truck and let's get out there. And, a night game gives you more run up, but it's just a different routine. And it's not the most frequent routine that fans have experienced, but nobody's going to throw a primetime home game to open the season out of bed or anything. But
no,
I liked 1 o'clock Sunday.
You have all day,
right?
This way, to take it in. Last opener out there, so would work for me. Sal wasn't telling us that it was official or anything like that, but he did say he's starting to hear that matchup specifically on Sunday night, week 1, as what we might get. 803-0550 is the number. I know some of you are saying, why not the Chiefs? Because they would be on a short week, having played 2 days earlier in Brazil, and then the travel. And that would really seem optimal. You get them having just played 48 hours earlier. But the league would not do that. They would not do that to Kansas City.
You'd have a tough time getting a direct flight from Sao Paulo to Buffalo, I think.
Yeah, that would not be possible.
Hold on, I've just been notified these teams have their own planes.
Oh, well, that's true. Maybe it will happen. Maybe they'll give the Chiefs 2, because it's nighttime, it's prime time. Maybe they'll give them 2 games in the first week. Would anybody ever take that in exchange for a week off?
Play 2 games in 3 days?
Yes.
I'm gonna
it's sort of like work a double,
right?
And then you get a day off for it.
Right.
I mean, I'd probably take that sometimes.
Sure.
2 shows at once,
this is
or
not
back to back, and then you get the next day off. I would take that sometimes, not every time.
Yeah, I don't find this that physically taxing though.
But that is a difference.
Yeah.
Pro Football Network has a ranking of what they think are the top 25 games of the year on the schedule as we wait for dates and times and everything. And they have 3 Bills games in the top 6, with Baltimore at Buffalo at number 6, Kansas City at Buffalo number 4, Philadelphia at Buffalo number 3. Top 2, second choice, Ravens at Chiefs, first choice, Eagles at Chiefs. So, not surprising to see those names. But as we've said many times, and it's great how it's the last year of the stadium to have 3 or 4, if you include Cincinnati, especially if that's week 1 prime time, you'd want to, marquee games, all at home. I mean, that's just really cool for them to
It is really cool,
on that
and it does. I read today, it was a one piece of I like what we've seen so far, even though we haven't seen anything, right? The Bills don't have to go to Europe or South America, so their furthest travel is Houston, and so only 1 game outside of this time zone, and it's not even the West, it's the Central time zone. So I like that. Another piece of that I omitted when I mentioned it earlier in the show is that they have the 5th easiest schedule. Mm-hmm. Which, when you think about how marquee those opponents are, it really is something that shines a light on just how down the AFC East is, really. Because you get a home schedule where you've got the Eagles and the Bengals and the Ravens and the Chiefs all coming in. Think, man, this schedule is brutal. What a meat grinder. No, it's actually the 5th easiest schedule. Yes, those are harder games. You're going to have hard games. But the rest of it, and I think a lot of it has to be just the state of the AFC East. And I happen to think, I don't know that this doesn't have to be right, but I think Miami's probably going to be down too. So even if you like a year ago at this time, I thought they're still a real threat, and I don't have to be right about this, but I just think they're going the wrong way. And so I don't know where the threat in the division is largely how fast can New England put it all together? Because I don't feel like I'm that worried about Miami. Definitely not as much as I was last year. I was talking them up a lot last year.
Miami trips me up because in a league that's, kind of by rule almost unpredictable, the Dolphins are a challenge. As somebody that tends to, overthink, which is, when you get it wrong, you've overthought it. When you get it right, you thought it through.
What a well-reasoned analysis you provided.
It's always about the result. It tells you whether you overthought it. But Miami doesn't seem too complicated. They've been the same team for 3 years now. Same coach, same principal players, same reputation. Good enough to beat bad teams, even sometimes scoring 70 points in the process. Like, they've been highly explosive in the right matchup. and then it gets cold, and then they play better teams and even make the playoffs, and they're just no match for the Bills. I mean, they've given the Bills close games, but really, like, it's rare that they've beaten them at all. And in those big spots, they're kind of an easy team to bet against, or they have been. So overthinking it is, well, that can't just last forever.
Right.
But why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't you be able to trust that? Maybe they're good enough to beat the Jets twice and to beat the NFC South teams. They play the same, almost the entire same schedule as the Bills, of course. I think they'll play Indianapolis instead of Houston. Why can't they win 9 or 10 games? The over-under on Miami, I think, is 8.5. Maybe 8.5, I think, is the number. So right down the middle. It's just, I don't know if I want to go in a different direction with them. Mm-hmm. And then which is it? Like, you're talking about they'll be worse. And maybe they're going to have to come up with some kind of new stuff because, like, it isn't fresh anymore. The Dolphins, their offense, quarterback with his history. Yeah, it's hard for me to get, like, really optimistic for the Dolphins.
Yeah, it feels very much to me like that. The McDaniel idea, which I liked, but I was sort of skeptical. Like, is his style going to work for a room full of football players? Like, because everyone's different, but sort of this sort of laid back, bro-y kind of dude. He might be the most dude NFL coach that there is, McDaniel. And I got nothing against dudes. I like dudes. Some of my best friends are dudes. So, but is that an effective football coach? And now that it sort of feels like this is it, everybody could rally around that, I suppose, but my bet would be that it goes the other way and worse. Like, guys recognize that he's maybe in trouble, and if they were already only half tuned in to begin with, discipline-wise, showing up for meetings and all that kind of stuff, that is going to get even further away from him. And that doesn't have to be a reason. Maybe you go out and Tyreek Hill's just incredible again and gets almost 2,000 yards and you outscore everybody and you have a great year in spite of all this. But, man, I just think the cracks are getting bigger there, and I think he'll have a harder time keeping a handle on that team because I think certain kind of players, certain kind of people will recognize that he might be vulnerable, and I'm tuning him out. Whatever.
Easy to quit on.
Yeah, easy to quit on.
I don't know.
What I think. Yeah,
like Tyreek Hill is almost a microcosm of them of the team. In like, he was a malcontent end of last year to these points. He's 31 now. He's 5'10", 190s. He's not somebody. Like, it's usually bigger guys that hold up for longer, and we went through this with Diggs. Like, you get to an age where maybe it's time to move on, and that could be Tyreek Hill at this point. I know in fantasy, when we talk about him, there's really not that much excitement anymore about Tyreek Hill. Last year's a first-round pick. Now he goes, like, sometimes into the third round because people just don't want to bet as confidently on him. And, he had off-season surgery, too. Like, is he even going to be 100%? But, you add up the Dolphins, and it doesn't seem too promising. There's talent. The Jets and the Patriots, and I'll probably be at risk, you're talking about McDaniel, of stereotyping a little bit, but, I mean, Vrabel is a brand in the NFL, and you know what that is. Like, the Patriots are about to muscle up, and the Bills are so obviously the target for the other teams. And Miami was, I mean, the Bills would beat them, but Miami was scary for a minute a couple of years ago. Like, are they unstoppable? And they weren't. New England is going to try to build a certain kind of team. And I think I get the same sense from Aaron Glenn that that's what he wants to do, too. Yep. Make the Jets just tougher. And if they're going to lose to the Bills, make it hurt. Just stop, not that they were exactly, but rolling over for them. The Jets have kind of, certainly the last time they met, it was that with Rodgers, and it's 40-0 in the third quarter. Right. Like, no resistance at all. So going into a team that really badly needs some kind of that. And I don't know, maybe it won't be anything this year, but I think those two teams want to do that. And maybe Miami. Miami has really never pulled that off. You know, it's somewhat of a stereotype.
Yeah.
Where they're located versus New York, Boston, Buffalo, you have a certain image. And the Dolphins, when have the Dolphins ever been like
gritty and tough?
Nasty, I don't know, 1974? I never think of them this way. That's probably not fair. I mean, they've had great players, but they don't seem like they won't necessarily be next to this presumed rebrand that the Patriots and the Jets,
right,
I think, appear to be into. I don't know. It's it'll be interesting. Will the Bills have kind of an easy ride like last year? If they do, last year I think we said clinched the AFC East on December 1.
Yes.
They had 5 games left after that. And any sort of finality to the stadium with the playoffs looming, win the division, you're going to be at home in the playoffs, will be a little anticlimactic maybe, which is not a bad thing since there'll be a postseason game at the stadium or 2. Or 3 even. You could have 3.
That's right. You could not get the 1 seed, but then end up at home, like almost happened in 21. Although they wouldn't have had 3 home games that year, but they would have been home for the championship.
That's
game.
right. Lines open if you want to talk about the schedule, the division, anything of the sort with us. 803-0550 is the number. Only one new reveal, to my knowledge, today in terms of the schedule at all. The international games were made official, but there were no surprises. That had all been reported. Just a Week 10 Monday night game, Philadelphia at Green Bay, is the big reveal we got from ESPN today. Thanks. I mean, that's almost offensive that was it. Not Week 1, not a doubleheader. Very disappointing. Lines are open for you. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
More schedule announcements today ahead of tomorrow's full reveal at 8 p.m. No international games this year for the Bills as the entire slate was released this morning. Some notes from that. The Vikings will spend back-to-back weeks in the British Isles, first in Dublin against the Steelers on September 28th, then London against the Browns on October 5th. And we also have the Madrid game. Miami's going to take on Washington on November 16th. And coverage of the NFL schedule release on WGR is presented by Window Nation, the perfect fit for your home and wallet. One game tonight in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It is Game 4 of Stars-Jets. Dallas hosts tonight at 8. They lead that series 2-1, and all signs are pointing to them getting reinforcements. Defenseman Miro Heiskanen is expected to play tonight. He has been activated from IR, but has not played since January 28th. 2 games in the NBA, 7 p.m. The Cavs host Indiana, though the Pacers are the team that can advance tonight with a win. Then at 9:30, Game 5 of Nuggets Thunder in Oklahoma. That series is all tied at 2 games apiece. We also had confirmation today that Celtics All-Star Jason Tatum did undergo surgery earlier this afternoon to repair a torn Achilles. We'll have Game 5 of Celtics Knicks tomorrow at 7. Then in baseball, MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred removed Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and other deceased players from the league's permanently ineligible list. Manfred ruled that the MLB's punishment of banned individuals ends upon their death. Those players are now thought to be eligible to be voted into the Hall of Fame. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Probably I should do more of this. That should be maybe the takeaway. I was watching the basketball game when Tatum went down. Ooh. I watched the second half of the game. It was great. When I turned it wasn't the beginning of the third quarter. When I turned it on, he and the Celtics were just like on fire. They got up 14. They've been up, in all their losses, they've been up big. They got up 14 and still third quarter. Knicks got it closer by the end of the third quarter and then kind of took the game over and had the lead when he went down. And it just was Achilles. Like they show, you can roll an ankle, but he was in such bad shape and you didn't really see anything obvious. Maybe you could have seen his Achilles, but you didn't really see his ankle turn or anything like that. And just that could be it.
Yeah.
And he was like carried off, sobbing maybe, just had his face covered, wheelchair, the whole thing. Like tough, very tough to watch. Yeah. When Rodgers got hurt against the Bills, remember what that looked like? He was sacked or threw incomplete.
No, he was sacked. Leonard Floyd got him. Yeah, I think it was a sack. Yes.
So he gets up and then sort of sits down.
Yeah.
And I remember it was my brother-in-law Mike who texted me right away. Achilles ? Yeah. Because on his face he had a certain expression, Rodgers, not like in agony. What's that injury? What does that injury feel like? It's just weird, people say. It's not like it's excruciating, but it's just like, oh.
Something's really wrong.
Something's really wrong.
Yeah.
And he got up, or maybe he was on one foot, and then went right to sit down on the turf. And when he texted me that, I'm like, yeah, you might be right. You might be right. This could be over. What a shocking thing that was. This could be over already.
4 plays into the season.
5 plays, 4, whatever it was, just right away.
4 is the number I got in my head. Yeah, I think. Yeah, that was. Well, you picked a good game to. I watched the game Sunday. Yeah, it's like, when's the Nick comeback thing happen? Like, the Celtics are up by 30. I'm just like, come on! When's it going to happen? It never happened. And now they've lost him. Jeez, that's what a tough.
I didn't get the Shamrock text from Sam today, like on the weekend.
Right.
They have a lot in Boston.
I got that on Sunday too.
You know, if he doesn't get hurt but they lose the game, I wonder what the odds are. I haven't looked to see what they are anyway. If he's available, which he won't be, for the rest of the series, is Boston with 2 out of 3 at home still even favored? Maybe. I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah.
But not now, I bet.
Right.
3-1 down without him. I'm not here to tell you what kind of chances they have, but the Knicks are the favorite now. I know that much in the East. So Tough to watch him get hurt. All right, well, back to the NFL, back to the Bills. The schedule coming out tomorrow night. The draft. You'll remember the name Elijah Badger.
Sure, Florida receiver. Trapasso liked him a lot.
Exactly. Did you know he was in Kansas City?
I guess not. Was he a undrafted free agent
Maybe.
signing of theirs? Then I feel like that sounds somewhat familiar to me. There's a reason I even asked that. I think he went undrafted, and that's how he ended up there.
That's correct. UDFA.
And I did see that, and it annoyed me that someone Chris liked when
Why is it always the Chiefs?
Went to Kansas City, right.
They have Jalen Royals, who was maybe a fourth-round pick.
Right.
And we talked about him, too, as it's not, believe it or not, it's not every day anymore with the wide receiver stuff. Like, the draft is behind us, and a lot of that, I guess, controversy that stemmed from it is, too, at least for now. But I had said, like, for me, the fourth round was the whole point because there were a couple, including Royals, there were a couple of interesting options there, or even the third, but the Bills at first were not in the third round. Like, that was really, I think, the pocket because of two things. The players, players like Royals and maybe other people would have different names that seemed to have potential to really make it in the league. And then also how that drops off when you get into the 6th and the 7th round. The receiver hit rate is very poor. It is mostly for all of day 3. But in the 4th round, I can talk myself into this is a guy. Like I would be doing that with Jalen Royals and the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. This is somebody that I can imagine being on the field and helping them. We were looking yesterday at the rankings that Warren Sharp tweeted of all the teams by their wide receiver cap hit. And Kansas City is right near the bottom because their guys are so young. They haven't had to extend anybody yet. Worthy, Rice. Now, this guy's a rookie, so obviously him.
Right.
Hollywood Brown is
modest contract for a second year in a row. Yeah. Well, the pick. See, this is why, like when it all happened, I was not as hot. Like I liked the Jalen Royals' name came up. He was one of any number of a half a dozen or so guys that we might have talked about that could be in that sort of range Saturday pick. I really liked the Deion Walker pick, and they moved to do that, right? Or did they stay put? Okay, that's pick 109. So that's ahead. I just looked. Royal was pick 133. Mm-hmm. But I think, or no, it was Sanders they moved way up to go get, wasn't it?
In round 2.
In round 2. I'm trying to remember if they moved at all for Walker. But anyway, that would have been the pick. That's the round anyway. I don't know. I think I'm mistaken about the moving up. I think that was only the Sanders pick. But I really like the Walker pick. I respect a lot that he had a down year this year, and off of the year before, he looked like a player that would be a first-round player, maybe even a high first-round player. So let's take a shot that fills a need if it hits, like that could be a really nice value pick. So I wasn't mad. I wanted a receiver. I've wanted a receiver for a few years, but I wasn't really bent about it at all because I like the Walker pick. And I feel like Royal was, I don't know, he's not the last receiver pick, but it was like the last of the guys that we had thought about.
Right.
I think. And so
that's where I was.
I don't know if I'm sitting at the draft and it's my pick and both guys are in play and it's reasonable to consider either guy here. I can't tell you for sure I wouldn't have just drifted to the receiver like out of habit, but I really like the Deion Walker pick. And that really, to me, mitigated how bent I was anyway about them not doing anything until they did on with their last pick with Prather. So Walker, I hope that works. I guess it's a long way to go. Who doesn't, right? But I like that pick a lot.
Yeah, it might be the most interesting year I can think of for talking about their defensive line and combinations and pecking order and all of that stuff. It's all the draft picks, plus Bosa, plus the 2 guys who are suspended. Eventually we'll get there. there's just a lot of new pieces, and they have some holdovers too, like just how they do it. It's not the topic that I rush to very often, no pun intended, is like how they're lining up front. Okay, there's a rotation. Oh, got a couple guys in free agency. Okay. Also, not to me like how make or break. This is where I'm going to either win or lose this game relative to quarterback, obviously, and other things. But I think this will be a fun year for sort of monitoring camp.
Yeah, there are a lot of new bodies. Yeah, that's right. You just said that. I mean, these draft picks. I mean, provided Walker's healthy, I feel like he's in the rotation. I think Landon Jackson, the third-round pick, the edge guy, is in the rotation. TJ Sanders absolutely is in the rotation. And that's with Rousseau and Epinesa and Oliver and Daquan Jones still already here. And I haven't even mentioned Bosa and Hoyt and Ogunjobi. Like, that's a makeover.
Yeah, it is.
Is really what they've done up there. It all has to work, obviously, for it to be impactful, but it's pretty dramatic what they've done up there.
Yeah, just taking a break from when will the games be,
right,
to who's on the team. Just a little bit of a diversion there. Lines are open for your thoughts on the schedule, 803-0550, or on the last few minutes what we've been talking about here, the Bills and their draft. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog back after this here on WGR. Welcome back. The Bisons are home this week, starting tonight against Worcester. Bulldog, it's not been a great season yet. 14-23.
Tough.
Gonna have to turn that around. Not quite Rockies stuff, but
Sorry, Tuesdays I think mean $2 dogs though.
well, I mean, I don't know what that does to the players.
Yeah, I don't think it does much. Although it could provide a crowd that is happy and well fed.
Yes, that's well fed.
Maybe.
Well said. The Rockies win total I saw today. The new one is down to 42.5. Started at 59.5. That's the one Sam was all over.
Amazing.
Now it's down to 42.
I texted him over the weekend. There was a vote of confidence maybe on Friday, and then on Saturday night they lost 21-0, and then the next day the manager was fired. And when the vote of confidence happened before Bud Black got fired, and they lost 21-0 on the heels of Terry Pegula flying into Montreal to visit the Sabres, right? Same sort of vibe. Like, here's the solution's in the room. 21-0. I'm like, I feel like you should get to win your bet right now for that. Like, it's amazing that happened.
If you ever lose a game 21-0, I think the starting pitcher that they faced was making his major league debut also. Some sort of record like that to win your first ever game 21-0. Right. Automatic, cash the tickets for the unders, you're saying.
Right, yes.
Here is Steven next. Hello, Steven.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. First of all, you were talking about the improvements on defense, and that gives me great hope because that was the Bills' weakness. We saw that last year throughout the season. So I think Brandon Beane's made some really good moves with the draft and free agency with who he signed up for that. On the offensive side of the ball, now I was talking to your screener about this. There's a rumor mill running amok on the internet, and stuff about, like, for instance, the possibility of the Bills getting Gabe Davis back. But, your screener told me, well, right now he's talking to San Francisco. I'd heard something about Amari Cooper possibly coming back. But anyway, the main one I'm concerned about is James Cook. Now, Jeremy and Joe Marino and Joe Orlovsky were talking on the Squad podcast, broadcast about how they looked up statistics. I think it was them. About how from like the 2-yard line to the end zone, with the Bills scoring running, touchdowns, it's mainly been Josh Allen, not James Cook. He's from further out. He got 16 touchdowns this year and over 1,000 yards.
Okay.
So we've all heard about, the story where he's been at the gambling table, asked about, what's the status, whether he's going to, be back. And he just said, let business be business, something like that. So I'm just wondering, have you guys heard anything about Cook? If he's, if they're solidifying his contract?
No.
They said he was in the last year of his rookie contract.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think anything's going to happen there. And Jerry Ostrowski is the name you wanted there, not Joe, our buddy from Bet Sweats. Jerry and Jeremy and Joe are doing a recently launched podcast. Anyway, no, I think the Bills' stance on it has been anything can happen at any time, of course, but I don't think there's urgency there. The way Bean sounds to me is like he's expecting Cook to just come and play out his contract. I'm expecting that to be what happens myself, unless he comes in at a much lower number than what I think it seems like he started out at. I don't think anything's really going to change there.
Yep, I don't have anything new for you either. The Vikings are going to play back-to-back games in Europe. What if that were us?
I would hate it.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't want to play any games in Europe.
I don't want to play. I don't want to go. I want to go visit Europe, but I don't want my football team that's trying to win their first ever championship, has been very, very close, to have to go to Europe. I'm very relieved that they don't have to go.
You think it's not? It doesn't correlate to a successful season quite as well as you'd like it to.
Right, quite as well. I don't think it has to kill your season. It didn't kill their season a couple of years ago, but it. I just don't think it helps.
I'd like to see the data on that. One reason why I think teams that go to Europe maybe haven't won more is that they're Jacksonville a lot. Right. A lot of those teams are Jacksonville. Right. But, from a fan's standpoint, it's one thing. It'd be amazing if you could afford
to go spend 2 weeks
or
in
whatever,
Europe.
or 8 days is enough to see 2 games in 2 different countries. That's pretty good.
And tour Europe while you're there in between the games. Yeah, that works.
That'd be a dream.
Yeah,
for a lot of people. And I think competitively, it's okay.
Well, I think if you got to go, maybe it's better to go and stay for 2 weeks.
There's that. The point we went all into when the Jaguars were there for an extra week, and the Bills maybe suffered for that. And it's 2 road games on your schedule that you don't have to make. At Pittsburgh, at Cleveland. Maybe weather issues in either case. Like, you could just, it might end up being a relief that you don't have to make those trips. You're doing this instead, neutral sites, all at once, kind of. So I don't know about, what my chances of winning are over historically if I'm making a trip to Europe at all. And you might be right to think that they go down. But I do think, of all the ways to do it, this is a good one. I don't know if we'll come out of it thinking like Minnesota got an advantage from it, but they do get to avoid making potentially raunchy road trips to Cleveland and Pittsburgh. They shouldn't have any sort of issues with weather where they're going instead.
Right, yeah, competitively on the field, that I feel like is advantage Minnesota. The question is how much does it affect them being away from home for 2 straight weeks? Guys have families. That could be, challenging.
Right. So that's something to talk about. There was a cool rumor, maybe not cool, but kind of a big one earlier. I was sort of hoping we would get it today. I'll tell you what it is, and basically just so that when it does happen, if it does, then we'll have
take
said
some
it.
credit for it.
Yeah, I'll take credit. Lines are open for your calls at 803-0550. The schedule release is tomorrow night. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
Schedule announcements ahead of tomorrow's 8 p.m. full reveal. No international game this year for the Bills as the entire slate was released this morning. Some notes from that: the Vikings will spend back-to-back weeks in the British Isles, first in Dublin against the Steelers on September 28th, then in London against the Browns on October 5th. We also have the Madrid game as Miami's going to take on Washington on November 16th. And coverage of the NFL schedule release on WGR is presented by Window Nation, the perfect fit for your home and wallet. One game tonight in the Stanley Cup playoffs, Game 4 of Stars-Jets. Dallas hosts tonight at 8. They lead that series 2-1, and all signs are pointing to them getting reinforcements as defenseman Miro Heiskanen is expected to play tonight. He has been activated from IR. Heiskanen, though, has not played since January 28th. 2 games tonight in the NBA, 7 p.m. The Cavs host Indiana. The Pacers, though, are the team that can advance to the Eastern Conference Finals with a win tonight. Then at 9:30, it's Game 5 of Nuggets Thunder in Oklahoma. That series all tied up at 2 games apiece. And we also got confirmation today. Celtics All-Star Jason Tatum did undergo surgery to repair a torn Achilles. Game 5 of Celtics Knicks is tomorrow night at 7. Then in baseball, Bison's home against the Woo Sox. That game's going to get started in just a few minutes. That'll be over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. And MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred removed Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and other deceased players from the league's permanently ineligible list. Manfred ruled the MLB's punishment of banned individuals ends upon their death. Those players are now thought to be eligible to be voted into the Hall of Fame. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Nowhere near the draft lottery. I would have loved it. I would have loved the NBA lottery last night. Just the chaos. I loved Twitter during the lottery.
Yes.
It's maybe so Dallas won at 1.6%. 1.8%. And of course, Dallas traded Luka Doncic to the Lakers, like a super controversial trade earlier this season. Like nobody understood it. One of the most shocking, maybe nonsensical trades that you get.
I think that's fair.
And then they go and win the lottery. And I think it adds up to maybe the most plausible conspiracy lottery situation we've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe the easiest to buy.
Sure.
And you got to love that.
Yeah.
You know, I do. It's just that's great content right there. The Mavericks winning the lottery from nowhere. I don't know anything more about it.
No,
I guess I wouldn't want to 100% assume that wouldn't be. Would I? Should I just rule out the possibility of a fix there? Big market.
I'm gonna 100% rule it out.
I'm at like 93%.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not sure how much because I just 1.8% is still 1.8%. I know it's very small, but it's not like they were ineligible to win the lottery and then they won it. They won it. It's lottery balls. I mean, the Sabres were one number away from winning this lottery, and they've won it already twice before recently. It happens. I don't know.
That's right.
I don't. And I know, like, the team isn't going to tell you. Like, I think Dallas was worried that their guy was not going to take the proper care of himself, and they wanted to get out of it. That's plausible to me. It's maybe stupid, but it's plausible. So I don't know. I can't get there. I can't get there. Here, make LA good, and we'll reward you with the top pick. I mean, it adds up. I mean, circumstantially, it checks boxes, but I'm not going to fall for it.
Every lottery, there's somebody who will claim that it's rigged. My favorite ever of these was when the Penguins won Crosby, because the strain of the argument. How do you not just sort of tear the muscle? How Pittsburgh, just like a woebegone hockey market for much of its existence, then Mario, elevated
cups in
it.
a row, right?
They obviously had a lot of success with him, but it wasn't like it's not a huge market. It just felt like you could have made a case for 20 teams above Pittsburgh for why, if you were going to fix that lottery, you would do it for all these other teams first. If the Leafs or somebody like that. But no, the league wanted Sidney Crosby, generational, in Pittsburgh, which just made no sense to me. You could say anywhere then, really. If you thought that, you could have said it about anybody. There is, by the way, on Crosby, action available on his next team.
Montreal's got to have the best odds, right?
Yes. Now, do you want Crosby on a new team? I don't think I do. Maybe it's interesting, but...
It would definitely be interesting. Do I want it? I mean, I definitely feel like Pittsburgh is not going to get out of its own way, and he's going to finish his career on a team that is not going to be a contender or even a playoff team. Montreal's a really hot idea because they are loaded with young talent that is only just like, you don't have to continue to get better. Like, the curves don't always work that way. There can be dips, but I feel like they're set. And a guy like that to come in and sort of show the way for a couple of years could be really hot. I think I have to admit I think I'm open to it. Even though, it's Montreal. If it were to be Montreal, and there's a reason I think that's the betting favorite. I think it's pretty well known that's the only other team he might consider playing for would be Montreal. So a guy of his stature would probably get the result he wants there if Pittsburgh is agreeable to moving him at any point. So I think so him being there is not going to be good for the Buffalo Sabres. Sorry, I had to spit that out. Probably, but I think I would welcome it. I think I would.
Let's go to Matt here next. Hi, Matt.
Hey guys, two things. One, the Bills' defense. I'm encouraged by what they've done in the offseason so far. I guess the only hesitation I have is that it doesn't really seem to matter how good they are during the regular season and how good they play, because we've seen it before where they're great number one defense, number two defense, whatever it is in football, and then they get to the playoffs and Kansas City just walks up and down the field like they were like one of the worst defenses. So to my mind, I don't really care, what they do until they show me something in the playoffs where they actually can stop somebody when they have to. And then the second point I had was about Manfred removing those banned players from the baseball list. Mm-hmm. They need to convene a Hall of Fame meeting tonight for those voters and vote Shoeless Joe Jackson in, because that's a farce that he isn't in. The man never cheated. His average in the series was .375, 12 hits, which was a series record, threw people out at the plate. And if he was cheating, he was probably the worst cheater in the history of cheating. So, and there's actually evidence that he tried to turn in the players, but he was somehow manipulated because I guess intelligence, he wasn't really intelligent. He was illiterate. Back then, I guess that was a thing with a lot of the players. But that's been a joke that he's still banned from the Hall of Fame based on what never actually happened.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like it's a very weak commissioner making a very weak move, because it's just like only going to curry favor, right? I mean, there have been fans for whether it's Jackson or Pete Rose. There's a faction of the fan base that forever just thinks it's this crime that they've been ineligible, and I just think like it's politically sort of an eye roll to me. Not to refute any points that might be any evidence that might exist on either guy, but. Once you've died, then it's all good. Is this today? After death, everything is forgiven. I don't know.
Will that extend to the steroid guys? I wonder.
After
they
Well, are they on the ineligible list?
No, they just don't get voted in. So that's right. That's different.
The voters decide that for
voters
themselves.
Are doing it themselves. That's right. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
And even within that crowd, there are guys where it's suspected, circumstantial, and then there are guys who failed tests, like Alex Rodriguez.
Right.
So even you could draw lines there. It's been a long time since I've
gotten into
that
car out
topic.
for a spin. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. You want a little trivia? I don't know how good this is. I came across it today, and unless you had something you were ready to pivot to there, do you happen to know how rare it is for a team to have six? It's a hockey thing. 6 30-goal scorers.
Yes.
You know how rare that is?
Not exactly, but it would seem it's maybe only happened a few times.
You're right. Three teams in the history of the league have had
six 30-goal scorers?
30-goal scorers.
Is that late 70s Boston team one of them?
No.
Because they had a record or still have a record for the most, I think it's 20.
Okay. Yeah, that's not the chart I have open, so I can't help you there. I'm not ready to go Google that.
Okay.
But there are 3 teams. The Bruins had 5, maybe a few times. There's a bunch of teams that have had 5 30-goal scorers, a long list of those. 3 teams in the history of the league had 6 30-goal scorers. There is a Sabres team that is on the list. 74-75.
That would be the one.
Had 6 30-goal scorers. I feel like 4 of them are would be easy for you.
Loose is one.
Okay, that's one of the sort of harder ones. I wonder if you can get the 6th one.
Danny, French Connection,
right?
Loose, and was Spencer on the team?
Spencer was, but he's not one of them. Pretty sure he's there in 74-75 on the Cup team, the Cup final team.
Jacques Richard?
Nope.
I don't know.
Dudley.
Oh, I thought of Dudley. I should have said it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, when I came across, I don't know why, what context I came across this, why I came across it, but I did earlier today, and it didn't have the list of the players. It just said the Sabres were one of 3 teams that have done this, and I quickly did, Danny, my favorite, the French Connection, Loose, I remember, 30-goal season, crazy plus-minus, that I think maybe Vanek beat in 07, if I remember correct, or maybe he didn't, maybe he's second. Loose had an incredible plus-minus that year. He had the 30 goals.
Yes.
And then I thought, okay, of course, that whole line, Ramsey. And I went, wait. No, it's not Ramsey, it's Dudley. And I was right. So I thought I'd bring it to you. The other 2 teams, by the way, if you care, not that, I don't know, you could take a run at them. The 84-85 Winnipeg Jets is going to be pretty tough, I think.
Oh, wow.
But that is one of the, that's one of the 3.
Howard Chuck. Do you have a list?
Yeah, I got it right here.
Howard Chuck, Thomas Steen.
Yes.
Boschman?
Yes. Very good.
Oh, boy. I think I'm done.
Okay. Do you want any? No, I'm not going to give you hints. Paul McLean. I was going to give
Paul
you
McLean.
like coach, mustache, right? Paul McLean.
Never was getting there.
Doug Smale.
Okay, never was getting there.
And Brian Mullen.
Wow.
Is the other.
Joe Mullen's brother.
The other team is the 77-78 Islanders.
Okay, that's beautiful. Trache Bossy. Westfall?
No.
Nystrom?
Yes.
Gillies?
Yes.
Lorne Henning? No.
No.
Done.
Denny Potvin.
He did? Oh,
yeah.
Just say it. 30 goals.
Yeah. Bob Bourne.
Okay.
Is the 6th one. That's it. The Bruins, you're thinking late 70s. That was 20 goals. I'm not going to be able to find that. They have 5 30-goal scorers in 70-71. And only one of those names would be a name that maybe you would struggle with.
Busick, Hodge, Esposito, or Rattel.
John McKenzie.
John McKenzie.
right.
Rattel's a Ranger.
Yes.
I think then.
Yeah.
What was the trade?
Rattel, Brad Park. Yeah.
Rattel for Park.
Yeah. I don't know if there were other pieces, but that was the nuts of the trade.
Rattel for Park and a 2027 fifth. It was, I believe. They still yet to cash that in. 78 Bruins, 11 20-goal scorers.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if that's still the record, but I just remember that one from all the way back. that they had 11 20-goal scorers. I didn't remember the number either.
Man, that's massive. That is massive. Are you looking at it? Or
I am. Only one had 30, and this player had 41. Everybody else is between 20 and 29.
Wow.
Inclusive.
What year did you say that is?
78. So they lose in the finals to Montreal in 78.
Yeah.
They tie that series. It's a great rewatch. There's also that really ugly fight. I think it's the same game with Lupien and Jonathan. Like, just gory.
Yeah.
And they tie that series in Game 4 in overtime on a Schmotz goal. Bobby Schmotz. It's just Dan Kelly's voice is on it. It's awesome. I think that's that series. And then Montreal wins in 6. It's not the Lambert year, where maybe the next year is Lambert Game 7 overtime.
Right. Boy, I would struggle, I think, trying to get through it. Because I think probably all the guys that I just mentioned are gone. Right? Because that's 7 years. So they're all gone.
Yeah.
So who's 77, 78? Well, Rattel.
Yep.
You just mentioned, right? Middleton's got to be there by then, right?
Also a former Ranger.
Right. Cashman is probably still there. Okay.
We've coached against him.
Yes, we have.
Wayne Cashman?
Yeah. O'Reilly. Who else? 20 goals, not 30. 20. Could Stan Jonathan have gotten to 20 goals?
27.
Oh, wow. 27. Man,
I
that
know.
was one of the toughest dudes that ever lived.
Yep.
He was like 5'6", and like I'm exaggerating, but he was a little dude, and he was a tough.
He's the guy in this fight I just mentioned.
Oh, right, of course.
He shot 22%. That doesn't hurt.
Right. Brad Park would have been there.
Park is right.
I might be done. Who am I forgetting? Terry O'Reilly's there.
Yep.
And
that's good. That's 7 names.
Thinking about...
You don't have the guy who had 41, though.
It's Peter McNabb.
Peter McNabb.
Former Sabre.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought of him when I was the Sabre thing, and I'm like, no, it doesn't line up.
Was he on the 75 team?
I never looked.
He was.
Okay.
22 goals for that team. Shooting 24%, which was a league best. How about that? This guy shot 18%.
I'm going to guess.
Don't let Sneaky Joe hear this, because he's going to go on all day tomorrow about the goalies.
I was just going to say, I bet shooting percentages were probably pretty good.
He shot 18.5% for his career in almost 1,000 games. Peter McNabb. The late Peter McNabb. I guess he could shoot it, but it's 24th all time.
Right. He got traded to Boston for Andre Savard.
Okay, right. Yep.
But he was on that Cup team, the team that lost to Philly in the final.
I remember him as a player for one thing.
Hair?
Well, I mean, yeah, he had a sort of kind of not unique, but a different look, sort of a mop haircut. But there was a game a Sabres game at Boston Garden. There was no overtime in the league yet. And he scored. Ted Darling had the game. He scored with like 2 seconds left. And I just was so upset. He broke a tie, to break a tie.
For Boston. Okay.
For Boston.
Okay, right.
I never saw him play for the Sabres. But he scored for Boston at the almost the last second of the game to win it, because you're going to get a point here.
Yeah, right.
And no, you're not.
Right.
Those are days that, you can't relate to anymore, because overtime rewards you. And they didn't have overtime. You just, you lose in regulation by 1 second. You can relate to that.
Sure.
But you didn't get...
No.
I don't know what I'm saying. You did get a point for a tie.
Right. And on the road, particularly at Boston, that was well earned. You did a good job.
Yeah.
If you
it seemed like such a waste to lose the game in 1 second.
You go in to play the Bruins. I'll take a tie.
Don Marcotte and Bob Miller also scored 20 goals for that team, and Greg Shepard. If you didn't say him, 23.
I definitely did not say him. That is not a name I would have thought of. All right, little out of nowhere hockey trivia.
70s hockey.
I don't know why. Again, I don't know why it should. There's been, it's the 50th year here since the Sabres were in that final in '75. Maybe that's what I don't know. But I came across it and thought, hey, I wonder if Mike would be able to nail this.
I did okay.
You got 5 of the 6.
5 of the 6, but you had to get those. The Jets, I'm more happy with the Jets.
You did a very good job on Boschman.
Getting 3.
I was really happy with that. Yeah,
Laurie Boschman, Thomas.
Because I opened that page up and I'm looking at the Jets and I'm just like, I would have guessed Howard Chuck, and I think I probably would have been out.
So those Oilers teams did not have 6 30-goal scorers, but they had like 3 90-goal scorers.
Right.
Or 60-goal scorers. I bet Curry was in the 60s.
Yeah.
Gretzky, obviously. Did Messier ever hit that kind of a number? I wonder what his career high is in goals.
I'll bet he got to 50, but I don't think it was a regular thing.
That's what I would say, too. I bet he got to 50, but maybe not 60.
I would guess no on 60 for him.
His career high was exactly 50 goals. 81-82. That's the only time he did it.
Overrated.
I wouldn't go up to him and challenge him on it. I wouldn't go up to him like that fan with Sean McDermott. Just like, you only scored 50 one time. I mean, weren't you on Edmonton?
Did you see the goalies?
Did you see the goalies? Weren't you on the Oilers? I thought you were on that team that scored at will. Schedule release tomorrow. It's been a quiet day. They gave us the international games, which we already knew, and just the one Monday night game in Week 10. This poor NFL nerd grid that's been sitting on my screen since yesterday, that number 13. They only have 13 games. It's been the same number since 8 this morning. Tough times. Tomorrow will be really fun, though. Sal joined us earlier. He's got a lean on who he thinks the Bills will open with and when. So if you missed that, we'll have that for you next and more on the schedule with Sal. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.